Conversation.
It's art, it's culture.
Movies, gossip and trends, sports, drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
To keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe.
Y254. Imagine.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It sounds nice, right? That's Sigi tune. Anytime you hear it.
Yeah, it does.
That's how we start our morning. Vivian was dancing to that Sigi tune.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a catchy one. It sounds catchy. Yeah.
Okay. 27th day of August 2024. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. I'm Victor Lo. How are you doing? I know there's a confusion in terms of who is going back to school, who is still remaining back at home. Parents are also confused. On the other hand, teachers are also confused. Kupet and Nat are speaking from different angles. But let's wait and just hope that things are going to be better. And students who are going to be sitting their KCSE examination will have an ample time to do their last touches and even do their last revisions too, as they prepare for the examination. So today, the president will be at State House with at least 4 other heads of state, African heads of state, to officially launch the AU bid for Honorable Raila Odinga. An election is slated for next year, February. And that bid now officially kicks off the shuttle diplomacy that will be taking place in all African nation blocks to drum up support for Honorable Raila Odinga. So we'll be waiting to see who are these heads of state who will be coming at State House today. What will they say? And the probable chances of Honorable Raila Odinga clinching that seat. But that for later on in the subsequent bulletins. But right about now, it's 27th day of August. We'll be talking about devolution at 14. I'll be joined by Martin Moshisho Martine, who is the Deputy Governor of Kajiado County. He's also the chair of the Deputy Governors Council. Join me at the top of the hour. Vivian.
A very good morning to you, Victor, and a very good morning to each and every one of you who is tuned in on the show today. Just to add on to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's candidature unveiling, which is supposed to take place today, 48 AU states are currently eligible. So far, 48 are currently eligible. And for us to get a win, or for any country to get a win, they need 2/3 of those votes. That's about 32 countries should vote for you. So far, I think Kenya has 25 countries already in the bag. So quick math, we need about 7-8 more countries to back us up for us to get that win. That is the AU chairmanship. And of course, we will be getting you up to speed with the unveiling later on today, probably around 8-9 a.m. thereabout. And today being a Tuesday, it is Health Tuesday. And on Health today, we'll be looking at something that affects very many women. Very many of them, and that is fibroids. We'll be looking at what really causes fibroids. What is fibroids all about? You know, does it have any effect, or does it affect a woman's childbearing, you know? And also, what are the treatment options available? And joining me for that will be none other than Dr. Wachira Murage, who is an obstetrician gynecologist. that will be a conversation that we all need to listen into. Mike, good morning.
Good morning to you, Vivian. That is a very interesting conversation because fibroids has been a problem to many ladies all over, and it will be interesting to understand and learn a few things about it and know how to go about it. Welcome to the program. My name is Mike. Maybe this is Good Morning Kenya, where we get to start your morning in style. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, you can be part of every conversation that will be happening here. You can tweet or write to us on all our social media platforms. We are at KBC Channel 1 on all our social media platforms. And also you can visit our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Welcome. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning to you. Glad to have each and one of you in this particular studio this morning, being the August 27th. I like the conversation that Victor is going to be having later on, looking at, the anniversary of devolution, and has it helped, constituents get value for their money, so to speak, because our leaders are supposed to be servants unto the constituents. But over the years, before devolution, everything was centralized. But now with devolution, services have been deemed to get down to the roots. I'd be looking keenly at, proposals, especially where CDF is concerned. There's been a bit of changes here and there. I'm also looking at development issues, just around maybe the road network services within the county governments and such. And it's very curious that you're hosting my deputy governor. I'd want to have a tete-a-tete with him in regard to what Kajiado County has become over the last several years and improvements that need to be done, especially when it comes to water, drainage and security. Those, I think, are the most pressing issues for constituents around Kajiado County. And also the integration, because Kajiado County, looking at the latest report of Ole Kajiado County, has been termed as the first growing county, so to speak, in terms of revenue collection, with Ongata Rongai and Ngong being the heavy lifters, so to speak, in as far as revenue is concerned. Yet, if you look at the planning of these particular towns, it's chaotic. So I hope you're going to bring that out. I've taken this opportunity to actually air that, because that's a privilege of being on this particular side of town and the screen, so to speak. So Victor, kazi kwako on that issue. Yes, rightfully put, the president is going to be launching that official bid for the AU chairmanship, unveiling Raila Odinga as Kenya's candidate. With 48 eligible voters or members in this particular caucus, will Kenya carry the day? And there are other intricate details that we're going to be bringing forth as we look at the ripple effect of Raila's win, or rather clinching that particular position, replacing Musa Faki, and in the event that uneventful actually happens and he fails to, then what next, especially in the political scene? That I'm sure is going to be put into perspective as Victor Carr engages his panel this morning. Rightfully put, you can be part of this conversation. We're also going to be keeping tabs on what is happening as far as matters of education. Schools began reopening for the third term, the shortest term, so to speak, where KCSE students are expected to take the exams in October. This comes at a time when Kuppet and NAT are seemingly pulling in different directions. So which way to go? Also on matters education, we're looking at the debate around the university funding model. Be part of the conversation. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1, and we start on that beat on matters education. We're learning in several schools across the country was disrupted as a strike called by the Kenya Union of Primary Education Teachers, that is Kuppet, began. Whereas the rival union, the Kenya National Union of Teachers, withdrew from the strike, Kuppet has maintained that the government has not fulfilled their demands. Here's a report.
This in silence at Bomo School in Mombasa, with no activities save for a few learners turning up for the first day of the third term, depict the toll on learning by the Kuppet strike that began today. It is a cause for worry to the school's board of management.
Mtoto akiwa nyumbani kusoma ni ngumu. Unaona? Hawezi. Afadhali angekuja skuli, hata angekuja wote shule. Wale walimu wako hapa wa BOM, labda wangefanya some revision na wao.
In Baringo, teachers took to the streets demanding that the Teacher Service Commission honors their collective bargaining agreement.
We want the full implementation of the CBA. Yes. We want all intern teachers. And the most unfortunate part is our CS is saying there is no money. MPs say that we are placed in the budget. Who is fooling who?
So was the situation in Kakamega County as secondary school tutors outlined their demands.
The government has refused to give teachers what is rightfully theirs. We have come to demand that the government must be able to respect a CBA that is actually law on its own.
In Embu County, the area Kupet Executive Secretary Jacob Karura warned teachers against betraying the strike.
Serikali tumejaribu waangalie matakwa yetu, lakini walitimiza jambo moja peke yake.
The TSC was accused of blackmail by the Kericho Kupet branch secretary.
TSC did not even want to go through the list of our demands. And now that is why we voted in the National Governing Council 100% to go for industrial action. Solidarity forever.
In Machakos County, more than 4,000 teachers down their tools to demand for better working conditions. Learning was also paralyzed in secondary schools in Siaya County as teachers obeyed the Kupet strike call.
But because our sister union has bowed out of the fight, Kupet remains to continue with the fight.
The Ministry of Education, however, called upon teachers to call off the strike, saying the remaining demands are administrative and ought not to disturb learning.
9 of them are administrative. The main demand that was there relating to the payment of their salaries that is under the CBA has been done, and the resources have been released. So what we've advised them that these administrative decisions, administrative issues, they need to sit down with TSC as the teaching is going on for them to be resolved.
Ogamba made the remarks in Nairobi during a tour to Lenana Primary School to check on the opening of the third term.
And you can bet you're going to be keeping tabs on that, because we understand various schools, pupils and students are still making their way to their various learning institutions. So who will carry the day? Kupet with industrial action, or NAT and TSC banding together and saying that teachers need to go back to school for the third term? We'll be doing a spot check in the course of this particular day. So do keep it KBC Channel 1. Still on education, President William Ruto has defended the new university funding model, assuring Kenyans that it aims at addressing inequalities in the country's education sector. Addressing a town hall meeting with students and other education stakeholders at KICC, the president said the means testing instruments being used to determine the banding of students ensures the most vulnerable in society are not disadvantaged. Take a look.
Since its inception on May 3rd to replace the differentiated unit cost DUC previously used to finance universities, the new university funding model has continued to draw sharp criticism from various stakeholders, with a section of students terming it discriminative.
What was so wrong with the old funding model that we could not sit down and amend it? So I feel we should go back to the old funding model.
Why the rush in implementing a model that has a lot of technicalities? Why the rush?
On Sunday evening, President William Ruto hosted a special convocation at the Kenyatta International Conference Center to debunk the myths surrounding the model.
The old model was almost destroying our education. Because, number one, it assumed that all the courses were the same.
The president noted that the government retired the old higher education funding model due to its inadequacies, which had driven more than half of the 40 universities in the country in dire financial crisis.
Scott Theological College, a university, closed down because of the old model. Many universities here, when I came into office, because of the old model, 23 out of 40 public universities were bankrupt.
The head of state further revealed that the banding in the new funding model existed way before, and that one band was added to the 4 that were existing before to make them 5, to ensure no student is left behind in the quest to get higher education.
We cannot continue as a nation to have an education system that shuts out millions of the children of the poor.
He reassured the country that at least 134,000 students applied for funding, with 26,000 appeals received so far for being wrongly banded.
I see many people, there's this problem. The students are being placed in the wrong band. This model is not good. But I have tremendous respect for the people who have ideas on how to solve the problem.
Well, that happened on Sunday, and the conversation is still ongoing with proponents and opponents of the same model. Now, county governments have been urged to adjust their budgets accordingly following the reduction of the shareable revenue by 20.1 billion shillings from 400.1 billion shillings to 380 billion shillings. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who chaired the opening of the 24th ordinary session of the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council in Nairobi, said the long-standing issue of pending bills that has been a major concern for both national and county administration has been addressed, stating the government's commitment to address and introduce and reduce the backlog of unpaid bills in future.
According to the Deputy President, the National Treasury has made notable progress in reducing the pending bills from 622.82 billion shillings as of June 2023 to 516.27 billion shillings by June 2024. This reduction, though not as substantial, pointing out to the magnitude of the financial obligations still facing the government.
During the extraordinary session, we made significant progress regarding implementation of the integrated county revenue management systems. It was resolved that counties will continue to maintain and operate their existing revenue systems while the National Steering Committee finalizes development of the new system and corresponding regulations.
The Deputy President also noted that despite these financial constraints, the National Treasury managed to transfer 354.5 billion shillings to counties by the end of the last financial year, equivalent to 92% of the total equitable share due to them. The outstanding amount of 30.83 billion shillings, which was delayed due to revenue shortfalls, was released in July 2024. The Council of Governors, however, said the 20.1 billion shillings reduction in shareable revenue from 400.1 billion shillings to 380 billion shillings would complicate the fiscal landscape for counties.
Further to our resolutions, we have successfully transferred movable assets, including registers and valuation reports, to the 47 county governments. The IGRTC, in collaboration with NTSA, is facilitating the change of ownership of these assets. Additionally, the State Department of Devolution, in collaboration with IGTRC and other relevant MDAs, has made significant progress in valuation of fixed assets.
The money relating to the June disbursement of 30.8 billion Kenya shillings was finally disbursed, although most of the accounts haven't accessed because of various challenges relating to the approvals by the control of budget, which one of the resolution has been that we need to have a meeting with the control of budget, a committee that will address the issues of approval so that we automate that process. With regard to the disbursement of the allocated amount for this financial year, we are in arrears for the month of June, or rather July and August. And because of the lack of the CARA, that is the County Allocation of Revenue Act 2024, which has not yet been approved by Senate, the Act mandates the National Treasury under the Division of Revenue Allocation Act to release up to 50%.
The meeting also discussed the need for counties to harmonize the cess rates to reduce the cost of doing business for farmers, the implementation of the integrated county revenue management system, and ongoing agricultural sector reforms to boost productivity and protect farmers from exploitation by middlemen.
We cross over to Mombasa as we speak matters business, where the process of relocating landowners displaced by the construction of the Dongo Kundu Special Economic Zone in Mombasa and Kwale counties will begin this week. Investment Cabinet Secretary Salim Mvurya says the government through the Kenya Ports Authority has allocated 1.4 billion shillings for compensation to 1,648 landowners to restart their lives on their new 400-acre piece of land.
Construction of the Dongo Kundu Special Economic Zone is set to transform Mombasa County into a regional logistics hub. The 50 billion shillings project, strategically located in the proximity of the port of Mombasa, the standard gauge railway, and the Moi International Airport, is expected to be completed by 2026. This week, the government commenced compensation for those affected by the project in Mombasa and Kwale counties. The process will see 1,648 people relocated and offered cash to enable them restart their lives.
At compensation for Dongo Kundu, 1,648 project-affected persons will begin this week. Of course, it will run for a few more days. And this is a project which is very special for the development of our country.
Mvurya says 97 investors have expressed interest in the 3,000 acres Dongo Kundu Special Economic Zone, with 60% being local investors and 40% foreign.
Applications, 97 applications for several investors, which have a value of slightly above 500 billion, and most of them are being screened now.
Mvurya says the list of investors in special economic zones would be reviewed by cancelling licenses for those who do not invest within 6 months.
We don't want people to, hoard and begin to form cartels, around special economic zone.
Plans are also underway to gazette the lapsed special economic zone.
All this comes as Cabinet has already agreed to the merger of the special economic zones and the EPAs, that is the economic zones that we have, so that they can have these particular agencies and initiatives under one roof for better efficiency. Now, unscrupulous business people could be fueling the high food prices in sub-Saharan Africa by engaging in price gouging. Now, this is according to the COMESA Competition Commission that is engaging policymakers to address the issue.
Rising food prices are a key driver of inflation in sub-Saharan Africa, which has a disproportionate impact on poorer households. Climate change has led to food scarcity, and COMESA is alarmed that traders are practicing price gouging that is pushing food prices up.
Agri markets are simply not working well. We have traders who are benefiting from this situation, who are suppressing farmer prices so that they buy at a low price. And then price gouge and sell at a very high price to consumers. And that exacerbates poverty in that the farmer gets a lower price, he has no incentive to produce next year.
The COMESA Competition Commission met diplomats in Zambia representing COMESA member states to push for policy changes in the region to deter restrictive practices.
They're talking about inflation. They say average inflation in the COMESA region is about 24.2%. The bigger part of that average is on food and non-alcoholic beverages, 23.3%. The rest fall below that. So food has become a problem everywhere. And competition policy and law, as we have assembled here today, should play a part in ensuring that we address this rise in food inflation.
COMESA Secretary General Chileshe Mpundu Kapwepwe said that with over 80% of Africa's population depending on agriculture, concerted effort is required to ensure enforcement of competition law to address food inflation, food security, and eradicate poverty.
Competition policy and law plays a complementary role to the efforts of COMESA Secretariat in addressing market imperfections in our market, including agriculture sector, which may not be adequately addressed through other policy interventions and thereby contribute to the regional integration agenda. COMESA is alive to the fact that an efficient and integrated common market cannot thrive in an environment of restrictive, unequal, and discriminatory business practices.
So the rise in food inflation that we are seeing not just in COMESA region, not just in Africa, but the world over, should be tackled with concerted efforts.
Now we speak sports, where the Kenya Police Bullets are a win away from securing a place in the 4th edition of the CAF Women's Championship League after beating Tanzania's Simba Queens 3-2 to book a place in the final of the CECAFA Women's Championship League qualifiers. The CAF Women's Championship League will be played in November this year.
Kenya Police Bullets had to come from behind in the second half to beat Simba Queens 3-2 and secure their place in the final of the CECAFA Women's Champions League qualifiers. The Kenyan ladies struck first in the 29th minute through Lucy Kwekwe, but the Queens from Tanzania leveled the score through Corazon Aquino just 6 minutes to the break. Simba Queens looked destined for the final when Corazon Aquino netted her second goal in the 56th minute, but Police Bullets were not shaken and leveled 5 minutes later courtesy of Diana Wasera. And it would be the Bullets who would have the last laugh thanks to Rebecca Okwaro, who rounded off goalkeeper Rufa to seal the much-deserved victory and a place in the final.
Officially, that puts a cap on matters in the headlines. Be sure to peruse our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, for further details on what is happening across the country as we continue keeping tabs on the education sector. Day 2, when students and pupils alike are expected to join or rather go back for their 3rd term, amid calls to continue with industrial action by KUPPET members, while not seemingly actually pulled out from taking up industrial action to give room to dialogue. So we'll be keeping tabs on that, as well as what is going to be happening in State House in not too long, likely an hour, as President William Ruto is expected to officially unveil and launch the bid to have Raila Odinga represent Kenya for the AU chairmanship position. That's our candidate as Kenya, and which way will it go? 48 members are eligible to vote. Will Kenya carry the day? We'll be keeping tabs on that. I'm Regina Manyara. I hand you over to Victor Law for today's candid conversation, where you can also be part of. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. Great day ahead.
Give me a heart attack. Why are you talking? You're confusing us.
Confusing you? How? I thought I was out of place. Why don't you go back to your bossy mother and ask her for your forgiveness? And pray very hard that she welcome you back. Because clearly you are not meant for this class. Come on, is this a joke?
Of course it is not a joke.
You haven't even written your name, eh? Can you go and wait for me in the office?
Mr. Tisha, I have been here for so long, so if you don't mind, I have a pressing matter I need to handle.
How about I give you all a pressing issue?
Wondering if you'll be coming home. I've been listening for the phone. Seems like it's take a chance alone.
It has stopped this cultural diffusion, spreading fear and confusion, playing cloak and dagger wars, losing what you're fighting for.
I ain't taking no calls on my struggles in the rearview mirror. If you ain't going my way, then you can get off and turn up and let the music play.
Sarah, I need you here with me. Don't leave me crying home again.
Okay, so it's 5 minutes past 7 a.m. Welcome back to the show. Good morning, Kenya. Being Tuesday, we'll take a quick look at what we have on our local dailies. Thereafter, get into our discussion and our topic here with my guest already in studio. So just be sure to join that discussion. My colleague Regina has just stepped out, but she asked the issue of Kajiado being the fastest growing counties in Kenya. And what are the possibilities? What are the contributors to that? The Deputy Governor is here to tell us more. Remember, you're also celebrating 14 years of devolution. Exactly 14 years ago, the new constitution was promulgated at Uhuru Park by then late President Mwai Kibaki. How is it like? But before then, let's take a look at what we have on the papers. Let me start with the Standard. The Standard says man of the moment. That is what we have here. And the man of the moment is Honorable Raila Odinga. This is with regard to his AU bid, the candidature to the AU. And now that is what we have, man of the moment, of the front page of the Standard newspaper. President William Ruto is today expected to officially launch Raila Odinga's AU bid at State House, with at least 4 African presidents expected to attend. This marks a significant milestone in the political life of Raila, as it cements his stature as an African statesman. This is on the flash of the Standard newspaper. And now, let me just verbatim. We have an opportunity to produce the next AUC chairman, and we must work together because it's not a position that belongs to a person, but our collective responsibility. That is according to President William Ruto. Still on the front page, we have anxiety as learners troop back to school. Nat and Kupet, yeah, they're still in the boxing ring. Who is going to surrender? We all know that Nat called off the strike, but Kupet says, hold on. So more Kenyans turn to digital lenders to cope. It also says that they are faced with soaring food prices. A growing number of Kenyan households are increasingly relying on mobile loans to make ends meet. Very quickly on the second page, Apple task for a town that shuts down at 9 p.m. to compete as city. This is Eldoret town. Unlike other Kenyan cities, Eldoret is one city without traffic lights. Did you know that, Vivian and Mike?
No.
There is no single traffic light in Eldoret.
That is interesting.
That is very interesting.
None.
It's a city now, so
Yes,
that
it is.
should be looked into.
Yes, I think the leadership there should look into that and make sure
How is there no traffic light?
There's no traffic
Not
light.
a single one?
No.
Oh, that's interesting.
Not even a single one.
That's
So
interesting.
I think it's, I don't know how it operates, but Eldoret is quite an interesting place.
Yeah.
And it's very cold at night. At around midnight or something, it's always very cold. So now they claim that they're facing huge taxes associated with the city elevation. Only how many days after that was elevated to city status? It's 12 days. And now they are now feeling the heat of high taxes.
Of that upgrade.
Exactly. But hey, just hold. Just hold. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. So we have here, Raila pushes for closer African unity, integration, and more trade. That is in his bid for the AU position. Azimio la Umoja Raila, leader Raila Odinga has also called for escalated unity and integration among African countries. He was at the Festac festival in Kisumu yesterday. Actually, he was accompanied by former Nigerian President Mzee Obasanjo himself. This is continued on page 4 with Obasanjo here in Kisumu, Ruto to unveil Raila's campaign for Africa Top Job. And Uganda's Yoweri Museveni in Tanzania's Samia Suluhu are expected to attend the event. And also Raila says that he envisions a united Africa characterized by peace and prosperity. Very quickly, the presidents who are expected to attend, they include Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, Samia Suluhu of Tanzania, Salva Kiir of South Sudan, and Hassan Sheikh Mohammed of Somalia. Burundi Prime Minister Gavis is also expected, and Rwanda Foreign Affairs Minister Oliver Nduhuru Hindria. I I beg your pardon
Okay,
about
you
that.
just butchered that name.
Just
Ndohungirehe is also expected to attend. I beg your pardon about that.
Yeah.
All right. They're also expected to attend amongst other top dignitaries at State House in Nairobi. Vivian.
All right, I have with me a copy of the Daily Nation, and in the front page of the Daily Nation, we have a standoff, a 5-hour-long meeting between union leaders representing post-primary school teachers and government officials yesterday failed to unlock a stalemate, signaling possibility of confusion deepening today when most secondary schools are scheduled to open. Yesterday, the first day of a third term, saw some high school tutors stage protests across the country, and they have a picture of some teachers protesting in Nyeri County. And then this is also as primary schools got to record low turnout after NAT cancelled the strike. And then we also have a story whereby it says, from a mechanic to police chief. His dream before joining the National Police Service was to work for a big motor vehicle garage. This is a story of Deputy Inspector General, that is Eliud Lagat, whose story has been laid out on that page, page 2 of the Daily Nation, where they've just laid out a story of his rise, from a mechanic to the Inspector General of Police, Deputy Inspector General of Police, that is. And then we have a story on page 3 of the Daily Nation whereby Kenya Police in Haiti set to get salaries this week. Now, Kenyan police officers deployed on a peacekeeping mission in Haiti will receive their delayed pay this week. Acting Inspector General of Police, that is Gilbert Masengeli, said in a statement yesterday that the National Police Service is working closely with other countries, partners, and the United Nations to ensure continued support for the multinationals' security support mission that is happening in Haiti. Another story that is making headlines on the Daily Nation is a story of the pass out that happened yesterday, that is the NYS pass out that happened at Gilgil yesterday, where the president was presiding over that. And the president mentioned that NYS recruits will be trained on handling firearms. That is also a story on the Daily Nation. Another story making headlines on the Daily Nation, as I pass it to Mike to let us know what is on the Star, is Ruto Raila deals signal return of ODM Pentagon. Is that real? Is that not? Mike, what's on the Star?
The story that is making headlines on the Star is Ruto Raila deal to hasten law review. The bid rekindles memories of doomed building bridges initiative of ex-president President Uhuru Kenyatta. That story is told in detail on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. Radical proposals include the creation of Prime Minister's office and official leader of opposition. Read out that story on page 4 and 5 and also on page 2 of the Star newspaper. There's a very interesting story here, still on the front page. Bitter pill to swallow. That is, the new gizmos place men at the center of birth control. That story, you'll find it on page 4 also and 5 of the Star newspaper. It's talking about gender roles have dictated that women are responsible for managing family planning, while men have largely remained on the sidelines. It's a very interesting read for you. Still on the front page, battle for the mountain. Fresh war in Mount Kenya as leaders take on Deputy President Gachagua. That is, Rigathi Gachagua faces a Herculean task in consolidating his Mount Kenya backyard as silent rebellion grows against his bid to lead the region. Jobs scramble looms as commissions fall vacant. That story, you will find it on page 7 of the Star newspaper. And finally, HR consultant reaping big from onion farming. Read that story on page 16 of the Star newspaper. That is where we end the newspaper review, and I hand you over back to Victor to continue with the rest of the program.
All right, before then, let's take a break, and we'll come back. The interview is up next. Stay with us.
Nahashin Kanyi Waithaka was an influential figure, especially in the 1970s and early 1980s, when he was mayor in his hometown of Nyeri, the administrative headquarters of Central Province. Born in 1936 in Tetu, Nyeru district, Nahashin Kanyi trained as a primary school teacher and taught at Kaigonde Primary School in Tetu. He rose to become the headmaster before resigning to join the Kenya prisons as a correction officer in 1978. After a short while, he resigned from the Kenya prison citing frustrations from senior officers and founded his own trading company in Nyeri, which mainly dealt in farm inputs and animal feeds. Nahashin Kanyi joined civic politics in 1974 and was elected to represent Mount Kenya ward in the Municipal Council of Nyeri, eventually winning the mayoral seat. In 1981, he vied but lost in a Nyeri constituency by-election occasioned by the imprisonment of MP Waruru Kanja, who was also Minister for Constitutional Affairs. In 1988, President Moi picked Nahashin Kanyi to contest the newly created Tetu constituency seat, carved out of the larger Nyeri alongside Nyeri Town and Kieni during the boundaries review exercise. In 1990, Nahashin Kanyi was appointed the Minister of State in charge of internal security, but the following year, he was transferred to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. When former Vice President Mwai Kibaki resigned and founded the Democratic Party of Kenya, DP, the political landscape in the entire country, including Nyeri, changed. At the same time, the ethnic clashes in Rift Valley preceding 1992 elections affected Nahashin Kanyi's popularity at home, as he was at the helm of the Ministry of Internal Security. The clashes mainly affected the Kikuyu community, which blamed Kanyi for not protecting them against the onslaught. His friends and supporters deserted him and boycotted his campaign meetings, eventually shunning him and fellow pro-Moi contestants in the 1992 polls. In 1994, Nahashin Kanyi relocated to the U.S. with his wife. He died in July 2017.
Okay, welcome back to the program, and now let's get into the discussion. And in the studio, I have Deputy Governor of Kajiado County, our neighbors, not so far away from here. When was the last time you were in Kajiado? Just thinking. There is something good about Kajiado, by the way. The Anyama. DG, we cannot talk about Kajiado without the succulent Nyama in Kajiado. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
It's been a while.
I'm glad I'm back.
Karibu sana. What have you been up to?
I've been serving the people of Kajiado, people of Kenya. I don't know whether I have come back to KBC after being elected for the second term.
I don't. You've not been here.
But I want to thank God and thank the people of Kajiado for according my boss and myself a second mandate to serve them. And we've been tirelessly working for the people of Kajiado. And that is what I have been up to.
Yeah.
Yes.
It must be an interesting job working with your senior, Governor Lelenku. What have you learned from him to this far?
Governor Olelenku is a very experienced man. We all know that he has served the country as the cabinet secretary in charge of interior. And he came to the devolved units, was elected as governor. And he picked me right from the university. I was a student leader, and immediately I'm done with my studies and my leadership in the university.
Yes.
He picked me up, and all this time, I would say it has been also a moment of mentoring. I've been watching him closely, learning the ropes, and I think I'm now fully backed.
Yeah.
I have learned a lot in leadership, and he's an extremely good man to work with.
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe learning is a continuous process, and you're still continuing to learn more from that.
Absolutely.
Allow me to take you back to 14 years ago. On this particular date, where were you? Or if you, perhaps not even where were you, but if you can remember exactly what happened 14 years ago at Uhuru Park. President Mwai Kibaki lifted a new copy of the Constitution. The promulgation happened at Uhuru Park. It was a thunderous moment, seeing Uhuru Park was filled to the brim. Perhaps just, your memory a bit, what it was like, and before we get into it, what was it like before then, if your memory can serve you right?
Well, I think 14 years ago, I was in the university. I was a student at Mount Kenya University. And I vividly remember when Kenya was celebrating the promulgation of the new constitution.
Yes.
Thanks to the efforts of many heroes who contributed to Kenya having a new constitution, and thanks to President Mwai Kibaki, who was in power then, who saw to it that Kenya gets a new constitution. I think what we can remember, or what I can just in a summary put as gains of the new constitution is that the new constitution tries to, reduce the absolute powers of the president and, shut it down. We also say that the new constitution has brought devolution. And in devolution, there is the, cascading of services to the lower units of the society. Wanjiko. And that is one of the best ever things that has happened to our country.
Yes.
And I think the new constitution brought about, democracy, the public participation, social justice. All those are found in the new constitution. Yes.
I'm trying to imagine that before the promulgation of the new constitution, I don't know how Kajiado was like way back then, and now we have it. Do we have a comparison before and now?
Definitely. Right now, services are found closer to the people.
Yes.
I think then the regional headquarters of people like us who are in Kajiado, we used to go all the way to Nakuru. That is really far.
Because it was a province then.
It was a province then.
Yes.
So, and then, the road network is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
There were not faster services like today. So we can see the difference. Right now we have the county government. Services are closer to the people. And yes, there is a big difference. Yes.
When you look at what is happening right now, a majority of counties are recording some great improvement in terms of their services. But my question to you, DG, is do you think the common mwananchi is feeling the change of the new constitution that we have 14 years later?
Yes. I'm told when devolution started, the first cesarean that happened in counties happened in Marsabit. And we know when the governors received this good news about a county government being able to perform a cesarean, service to the people of one lady in Marsabit, governors cried in the room. They were very happy. And right now, the capacity has really been built in almost all counties. For example, in Kajiado, the health services has really improved. Right now, we have over 5 level 4 hospitals from 0. And by the end of next year, we will have about 6 level 4 hospitals and a powerful level 5 hospital, from 0. A lot of dispensaries, a lot of health centers. So there is tremendous improvement. We are reducing that gap that has ever existed. According to World Health Organization, it is a requirement that you walk 5 kilometers and find a health center, dispensary. And a county like Kajiado, you used to go over 30 kilometers to find a health center, dispensary, or a hospital. Right now, we are trying, and we have really tried to reduce that gap. So devolution has made us reduce that, and those are the gains of our constitution.
And I believe this one is also replicated in all the counties in Kenya.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You are the immediate chair of the Deputy Governor's Council. What has it been as a first-time Deputy Governor? Allow me to use this one. One of the youngest, learning from your seniors and also learning after the people who started the devolution. How has it been? Or when you, let me start with this. What was it like being the chair of the Deputy Governor's Council Forum?
I came to the county leadership in the second cycle of devolution.
Yes.
Because I was elected in 2017. And when the people of Kajiado elected me as the deputy governor for the first time, and then the caucus of deputy governors elected me as the vice chair of the forum. And just like the first cohort of deputy governors, we experienced a lot of squabbles between governors and deputy governors then in our first term. Something that we thought that in the third cycle, we will be able to correct that.
What were the reasons then?
It is about relations. The relationship between a governor and deputy governor. They have been saying that deputy governors are just flower girls, because if the relations between a governor and the deputy governor is not really working, then there are always fights. And when there are squabbles in a county government, then service delivery is always hampered.
Yes.
And that is not really healthy for the development of a county. We have really attempted to correct the situation. We proposed to the Senate to find some legislations to try and correct the mess. I'm glad that up to when I left office last week, but the Senate is almost ready with some amendments to give flesh to the roles of a deputy governor, so that if the relations between a governor and a deputy governor is not really working, the law will make the deputy governor busy by finding what to do.
Yeah, because the argument was most of the deputy governors did not have a distinctive role.
Yes.
So they were under the mercy of their bosses. If you don't have a job to do, then, as you said, they were like flower girls. And I believe that really demotivated some of the deputy governors to work with their bosses.
Absolutely.
How is it going to change with the law that you're saying that the Senate is also, working on that law? What do you think the future is like for the deputy governors or to the entire system of governance in the counties?
I think what we need is the law to come clear.
Yes.
To give the deputy governor some specific roles. Right now, there are some deputy governors who are fueling their cars, whom their offices are closed, whom, security are withdrawn. And this is just because they are not speaking in the same tune with his or her boss.
Yes.
A deputy governor can only be protected by law. So we want a law that can be able to protect deputy governors. If you are not in the same page with your governor, then the law can still protect you to access facilitation to be able to serve your people. So thanks to the Senate, the Committee on Devolution, they are really working hard to ensure that there is some kind or level of protection of the roles of deputy governors and how deputy governors really function. And I think one big issue has always been resources. When the office of the deputy governor is not really fully resourced, then definitely squabbles will come in play.
Why has it taken 14 years to resolve this stalemate between the governors and the deputies?
I have really followed it up, and at some point the Senate was again hesitant on trying to give more flesh to the roles of the deputy governor. The reason they had was they don't want to make two centers of power.
Exactly.
Two centers of power.
Okay.
So their argument was the drafters of the Constitution never wanted really to have two centers of power. But again, counties being riddled with all these fights, I think they thought it is important to protect the office of the deputy governor to some level. Yeah, so I think those were the reasoning.
I'm happy that you spearheaded that process, and perhaps the office bearer right now will continue the mantle. Now let's come back to the real situation here. Let's talk about the equitable distribution of resources to the counties. How the counties working on under deliberate effort to make sure that distribution of resources the county is something that is open and quickly and timely to Wanjiku?
I think the processes are very clear. There is processes on how those resources are distributed to Wananchi. Of course, we follow budgets that are prepared way before these monies are received. I think the question should be how timely these resources are disbursed from the national government. Treasury, in conjunction with IBEC, normally prepares a schedule on disbursement of these resources. According to the PFM Act, we are supposed, or counties are supposed to receive monies every 15th of the month. But that has not really been honored. We experience delays every other financial year, which is not really good for counties because that occasions delay of services and sometimes that also occasions what we call low absorption rate.
Yes.
I think the question has always been timely disbursement of these resources to the county government so that governors and the rest of the county government can be able to absorb this money and put it to the service of Mwananchi.
Yes.
Yeah.
The issue of, the national government still holding some functions, and yet they are distributed to the counties. You find that the national government has a say. For example, health is devolved, but a bigger chunk of some instructions and word, disbursement of funds still come from the national government. How are you trying to resolve this? As the counties, devolution is here 14 years later, but some functions are not fully devolved and supposed to be under the law.
This has always been a clamor for the county governments through the Council of Governors. We have really pushed for all the functions that under Schedule 4 to fully be devolved to the county governments. IGRTC was mandated to ensure that all those functions that are supposed to be devolved to the county government has been implemented, has been transferred, because they say money follow functions. You cannot just receive money without a function. And therefore, for counties to be able to receive adequate funds, the constitution has to be fully implemented by transferring all the functions that are supposed to be transferred to the county government.
And why is the stalemate?
I think it's just a delay. And there is some kind of unwillingness from the national government to fully transfer these functions to the county government. I think last year we launched that process, and that process was to take a month or two and be concluded. But up to this point, that process has not been concluded. So the president has to help counties to realize, the constitution.
Yes.
Yes.
I will talk about IBEC. I'm informed that there was a meeting yesterday, IBEC, with the deputy president.
Yes.
Perhaps you'll tell us some of the resolutions that you had, some of the concerns that you raised with the deputy president. But before then, there is the issue that people are still grappling with, counties, in as far as devolution is concerned, the 2/3 gender rule. How are you handling it, and what would you take on that?
I think the National Assembly was supposed to come up with a law that will try to correct the gender imbalance. But up to this point, I do not know any law that has been passed on the 2 gender rule. some say that coming up with that legislation, you know, is against democracy. Every person, every gender in this country has equal rights to go and seek any elective position. So that has been the argument. So the National Assembly has always been be pushed to pass a legislation to correct that misnomer. Yes.
Allow me to ask you this question. How do you differentiate, or what should you think Kenyans have achieved so far in terms of governance, you know, 14 years later? And I'm so sure President Mwai Kibaki, wherever he is also happy. You've talked about we have got several gains. But do you think Wanjiku is enjoying the fruit of devolution?
Definitely. I talked about health.
Yes.
Water. We have seen water services going closer to the people. In some communities, the role of fetching water is on the woman. This is a very heavy burden for women in the society. Through the county government, we now have, you know, a lot of boreholes in every community, water reticulation from water sources down to the people, and you know, water is a default function, and the county governments are responsible to ensure that every village has got water. It is no longer like before, where if you want to make a case on, you know, having water in a particular village, you have to look for a minister in the national government in Nairobi. There are now officers in charge of such a function in a county government, and these people are always found in the villages, coming for functions, you know, attending community ceremonies, and Mwananchi will always be able to access this person, ask them about water availability in a given area, and we have seen that as a very big gain. Number two, people have now governments, they feel it's their own governments.
Yes.
And through this, a lot of locals has got, you know, jobs in their counties, and you know, these staff are local. You know, they come from certain villages, and the common Mwananchi will be able to ask these employees of government in the language they understand about services that are provided in a county.
And the issue of accountability. Because the common Mwananchi would want you as a deputy governor, or even your boss, or deputy governors, or counties, that accountability. Yes, I pay taxes. There is that sense of own source revenue. But where is my money going to? Another thing that Mwananchi should be looking at. Let's talk about the issue of accountability. Just the recent mandamano that we had, the Gen Z talked about accountability from the national government and all that. But I don't think it was only from on the other side of the national government. It also gets down to the counties.
Absolutely.
What do you talk about accountability? Are we exercising accountability? Or even you as leaders, do you take accountability as one of your guiding principles in governance?
Yes, and the law has given a framework on accountability. As the executive, we have a county assembly that keeps the checks and balances for the executive. But on top of the county assembly, we also have other agencies of government. We have the Auditor General that always have a schedule to come and audit all the resources that the county government has spent, especially the executive. And we also have the Senate. Governors appear before Senate to answer any queries that as a result of the audits from the Auditor General. And we also have Wananchi. If some projects are not done and were in the budgets, because we now have public participation.
Yes. Have you done yours? Now you talked about it.
Absolutely.
You're just working on your ADPs.
Yes, we do public participation.
Okay.
And these projects are projects that are passed through public participation. Powers have been given to the common Mwananchi. It is no longer the governor to decide whether village A gets a borehole or a road. It is Wananchi themselves who gives, who allocates these projects according to priority. Maybe to village 1, the need is the road. They decide, let's have funds on the road. The other one says it is water. So powers are with Mwananchi now.
Yes.
So they will always have a framework also to ask, how comes we budgeted for a road, we have not gotten a road, we have gotten this. So there is a lot of options for accountability.
Exactly.
Yes.
Let's come to the issue of separation of powers.
Yes.
We have the counties, the executive, we have the national government, we have the executive, legislature, and even the judiciary. Tell me, do you think the distribution of power, separation of power, has been exercised fully under the new constitution?
Yes, to some level we have seen, you know, that autonomy, that independence, and Kenya has surprised the world. When you talk of the judiciary, we have seen our courts ruling against some matters that the government is passionate about. We have seen the cases of BBI in the previous term.
Yes.
That shows some level of independence of our judiciary. We have seen, even in the case of election petition, the presidential petition, you know, our courts saying that we go back to the re-election. That again shows some level of independence.
And even some courts saying that, can you go back and consult?
Absolutely.
More public participation.
Cases of, you know, the other day we had the cases of CAS's positions. Our court said,
it's unconstitutional.
No, this is unconstitutional.
Yes.
We want to appreciate those efforts by the judiciary and many other agencies of our government. But again, I know there are also some efforts to try and, you know, reduce that level of independence, and sometimes through funding of those institutions. So if you cut down the fundings of an institution just because you want to speak in your tune, then that is to really work against the constitution.
Yeah.
So we will always encourage the executive to fully fund all these agencies and allow them to operate independently without threatening that if you're not going to pass what you want as the executive, we are going to stream you of the funding. That is against the spirit of the Constitution.
Against the spirit of the Constitution. Okay, let's talk about devolution.
Yes.
The SDGs, and of course the issue of the regional economic blocks. We have different regional economic blocks in the counties and all that, but how are they working to hasten devolution? Because first of all, it's devolution, the SDGs, and now we have the regional economic blocks. How are they combined or intertwined?
Mostly the economic blocks consist of counties that have some issues affecting them.
Yes.
Right now, as Kajiado, we have my economic block.
Which consists of?
Kajiado, Narok, and Samburu.
Yes.
But initially, we had Kajiado and Narok as a block. But later, we brought Samburu on board. One, because of the many things that we share in common. One being tourism. We have wildlife, and wildlife contributes a lot to the tourism sector in our country.
GDP of the country, of course.
In the country.
Yeah.
Kajiado has Amboseli National Park. Samburu has Samburu National Reserve. Narok has Masai Mara. And number two, our culture. Our culture, we share the Maasai culture, very strong, is part of the factors that contributes to tourism in our country. And Kajiado and Narok, we share some natural resources, like when you talk of the Wasongiro River, runs across the two counties, and therefore there are things that we can be able to push, projects that can push together as counties, and we have done a lot together. Right now we have what you call the Ma Annual Festival,
which is always very vibrant.
Very vibrant.
Very vibrant.
Last year we were in Sekenani in Masai Mara. This year we will be going to Samburu, and then next year we will be coming to Kajiado. We expect that in these festivals we will be attracting international tourists who will be visiting our country, and the country will be gaining through culture. And that is being advanced by an economic block, and many other things. So it is really important. We have seen counties in the north coming together, applying funds together, and they get a lot of funds as a block, because some international financiers funds counties coming together more than looking for funds individually. So our coming together even attracts international funding. Yes.
The issue of financial management and the fiscal bit of it, we have the on-source revenue by the counties. I don't know what is your on-source revenue as Kajiado County?
Kajiado County has a potential of, up to 4 billion. But I think the highest that we have ever collected is 1.2 billion.
Yes.
We have really put in place measures to ensure that we are going to achieve the potential of Kajiado.
But do you think counties in Kenya are able to sustain themselves through their ORS, OSR, that's the on-source revenue collection, without the contribution from the national government?
With time, capacity is going to be built.
Yes.
And with time, counties can really be able to collect money that will sustain them. But in the meantime, through equitable share, we continue to build capacity for counties to collect more. And these revenues are going to be collected through, land rates, but also to be able to maximize on collection through land rates. There are a lot of things that needs to happen. For example, things like spatial planning. Not many counties have been able to have their spatial plans, and for those counties that has really passed their spatial plans, they would be able to collect more than those that are without spatial planning, because a lot of revenue collection are found on land.
Very well.
Yes.
I love the way you put it. But DG, let's talk about this issue. What are some of the legal and policy frameworks that you think that everybody from the national government, from the stakeholders, from the sector players, including Wanjiku, can do and contribute to hasten devolution?
I think number one, we should all know that devolution is still relatively young. It needs support, needs nurturing, needs building that capacity. The national government should really help counties to build capacity. At the moment, we feel that devolution is threatened.
Threatened?
Threatened.
Okay.
Continuous delay of resources to the county government really hampers service delivery. So I would request and mention that the national government should fully support devolution. Mwananchi has a role to support devolution by, paying taxes that are collected in a county government, believe and trust in the processes that are in place. Because most of the time we have used corruption, the word corruption, to deter a flow of services in counties. And sometimes we focus on counties on corruption and we fail to think about the national government.
Yes.
When we talk of corruption in counties, we need to ask ourselves, what percentage of corruption is this that is happening in counties? The share of counties of the total revenues collected nationally is 15%. And out of the 15%, a huge chunk of this money is going to pay, salaries. And therefore, the percentage of what we are following to say it's corruption is a drop in the ocean. So let's not use corruption to kill devolution, to kill services in the counties. So we need to support a devolution, and let's not always think that governors and anyone who works in the county is a corrupt person, and these are people who embezzles public money.
Yes.
That is a narrative, and we should change.
Did you have 2 minutes to wind up this? Time flies so fast when you have a good time. This is so sad. But then the question is, I'm told that Kajiado became the first county to go cashless in terms of revenue collection. How is it?
We're doing well.
You can't take the bragging right. As the only county going cashless.
I don't think we are the only county. We are just among the many counties that that are going cashless. And last week we have signed an MOU with Safaricom and this is in an effort to ensure that we deepen digitization of revenue collection, because going digitization and tighten the loopholes, we are going to realize higher revenue collection.
All right.
Yes.
I want to finalize this. So moving forward, Devolution is here, 14 years exactly. What is your projection as we move forward?
As I said, Devolution is the way to go. But we have a duty to support Devolution, to nurture Devolution, and to build that capacity of counties for the country to continue realizing the benefits of devolution.
Yes.
We have already seen the gains, and we can't afford to kill devolution. It will be a very, very expensive endeavor.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where are we? 14 years later, on a scale of 1 to 10, and be nice, be generous, not 3, not 4.
According to me, 4 out of 6.
I said not 3 or 4. Maybe 5, 6 moving forward. Okay, I'll take 4. I'll take 4. So we still have a lot of work to do, though.
Yes, but we are on the right track.
We're on the right track.
We are on the right track.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Time flies when you're having a good time. And please come again and again and again and again and again.
Asante sana.
And please say hi to Governor Lelenku.
Thank you very much.
Mwambie tuko sawa huku.
Asante sana.
Under Governor Sakaja.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That has been a discussion with the Deputy Governor of Kajiado County, Martin Moshisho, joining us as we take a look at 14 years of devolution in the country. We are taking a break. And you know what? When we come back, now Doramanya is going to take it now on the other side of the Kiswahili version. That is Safari ya Katiba miaka 14 baadaye. And that discussion is going to be handled by constitutional lawyer and politician Ukura Aukot, as well as Millie Lwanga, advocate of the High Court of the Republic of Kenya. Why don't you just take a moment, take a breather, and then join Doramanya after this break? My name is Victor Lo. DJ, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Have a good morning.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
I never heard the music so sweet. I repeat.
Well, go on, me brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to shell down the place with nothing but the best of smooth way the vibes in your favorite station. You know these things, man.
Alafu kila Tuesday, kata simu tupo side, giving you Kenyan music from the 254.
And of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday with me, DJ_Liza Diva,
DJ Colda,
and me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Unanifanya nisikie kunyongwa. money especially ukisonga.
Kati yangu na wewe nani anaweza piga mwingine?
Isipokuwa mimi na Seeka, mimi nilikuwa mchezaji ya wrestling.
Ulikuwa mtu ya wrestling?
Yes.
Yaona. Mark that. Tuendelee.
Mimi sasa nikienda kwa Dobi, ani kombolesha nguo nivae, nitakuwa nimehandle stolen property.
Unakomboa kwa Dobi.
Wewe unaelewa sheria kabisa.
Makoa, hiyo unasikia hapo ni kuajiriwa na ajiriwa. Na kuna suti za kukomboleza hapo. Wewe toka wende. Kwa maanisha amepatikana na nguo ya wishi. Nani alikuwa anatakana kushtakiwa? Ni mimi ama ni huyo?
Mzee, tuelewane hapa.
Sasa huyo mtu kwa bahati mbaya si alifunjwa paka poni, mheshimiwa.
Alivunjwa?
Paka poni, mheshimiwa, paka poni ya huku.
Do you know I know the one of the laundry?
Shut up. You are talking with me.
Sasa umeanza nini?
Sasa anaanza kunitusi na
wewe umeanza kuambia watu shut up kwa nini?
Sasa niaulize swali ya maana.
Don't try to confuse me.
You are confusing me.
So hii suit imeandikwa nini?
In the field of technology, artificial intelligence, commonly known as AI, has been hitting the headlines over the last years. The goal of artificial intelligence is to make machines to think like humans and perform human-like tasks.
What artificial intelligence is pretty much we've been trying to understand how machines can learn the way humans learn.
A machine that is having this human intelligence, just embedded in it, and then it's actually now able to actually do task, definitely using now the complex algorithms under it.
The way I think about AI is it's a tool. As long as human beings have existed, we've been working our way towards an assistant or a tool that can help us. So we've actually always been building AI.
Artificial intelligence has become more popular today, but the term AI was first coined in the 1950s. Advanced algorithms, improvement in computing power and storage are among the features that have marked remarkable evolution in AI.
I was first introduced to AI when I was 12 years old. I didn't know necessarily it was AI, but it was an old scrap computer that had an AI called Eliza, which was the first ever chatbot. You know, the way now we use ChatGPT.
Human intelligence, animal intelligence, and collective intelligence are among other intelligences. This begs the question, how is AI different from other intelligences?
When it comes to the AI bit of it, artificial intelligence, so this is actually intelligence that has been built by humans. So we're talking about the complexities of algorithms actually being able to work.
The use of AI in the day-to-day life results to efficiency through task automation, data analysis for informed decisions, assistance in medical diagnosis, among other benefits.
So what artificial intelligence helps you do is that this is a machine that doesn't need sleep, doesn't need to eat, it only needs electricity.
Just think of this superhuman. That's what the machine is trying to do. Not really trying, it's actually doing right now.
So what artificial intelligence does is it gives you superpowers. It can work day and night for your work. So meaning at night, it could be able to create new kinds of money for you.
wa KBC Channel 1 na vile vile msikilizaji wa KBC Radio Taifa sauti ya Mkenya. Karibu sana tunapokutana tena katika mazungumzo ya gumzo pevu. Asante wenzangu upande wa pili wa studio za Channel 1 na vile vile asante mwenzangu Rashid Mwamkondo upande wa KBC Radio Taifa sauti ya Mkenya. Haya tunafanya kila siku ya Jumanne, ushirikiano mkubwa wa KBC Radio Taifa na vile vile KBC Channel 1. Ina maana kwamba unasikia na pia unaweza kutazama yale ambayo yanajiri katika studio zetu hapa katika broadcast Broadcasting House. Ni wakati mwingine mtazamaji na msikilizaji tunapokutana hewani kupitia kipindi hiki, na hii leo tutakuwa tunaangazia safari ya katiba miaka 14 baadaye. Siku kama ya leo Agosti tarehe 27 mwaka 2010, maelfu ya Wakenya waliweza kukusanyika katika bustani ya Uhuru kushuhudia kuidhinishwa rasmi katiba tulionayo kwa sasa. Miaka 14 baadaye tuko hapa kuiweka kwenye mizani katiba hiyo ambayo Wakenya walikuwa na matumaini makubwa kwamba ingebadilisha mengi hapa nchini Kenya. Na hapo jana pia kizaazaa kilishuhudiwa katikati mwa jiji la Nairobi wakati vijana walipokuwa wakiandamana kwa maandalizi ya maandamano mengine yaliyopangwa hii leo. Vijana hao walihoji kuwa maandamano leo ni ya kuadhimisha miaka 14 ya katiba ambayo wanasema serikali ya sasa imekuwa ikiendelea kukiuka. Basi siku kama hiyo wanaita Katiba Day. Yapo mengi mazuri ya kuzungumziwa yanayotokana na katiba hii kulingana na wachanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa, lakini pia wapo wale wanaohisi baadhi ya mambo muhimu hayajashughulikiwa kwenye katiba hii. Na basi kutusaidia kuchambua masuala haya studioni nilikuwa nataraji wageni watatu, lakini tayari tunaye Bi Millicent Luanga ambaye ni wakili wa mahakama kuu hapa nchini Kenya, ambaye ameshafika studioni, ambaye atatusaidia kuelewa masuala haya, hatua ambazo tumepiga. Tulimtaraji Daktari Ekuru wa Ukot na Senator Veronica Maina ambao hawajaweza kufika, lakini yote 9-10 lazima shughuli nzima iweze kuendelea. Kwa hivyo karibu, andamana nasi kupitia mitandao ya kijamii, Facebook KBC Radio Taifa, na vile vile Channel 1, na vile vile mtandao wetu wa X. Mimi naitwa Dora Manya. Karibu sana Bi Luanga, hujambo?
Si jambo, asante sana. Nimefurahi kufika hapa.
Nafurahi kwamba umetenga muda kuweza kufika, na leo tunasema ndio Katiba Day.
Leo ndio Katiba Day. Leo tunajivunia kama Wakenya miaka 14 tangu tuwe na katiba mpya. Na unajua hiyo katiba tulitafuta sana kwa sababu ilichukua zaidi ya miaka 20 ndio tugeuze ile katiba ya kwanza ambayo tulikuwa nayo. Ndio
tunataka tuangazie basi baada ya kugeuza katiba ile ya mbeberu ambayo tulianza kuitumia mwaka 1963. Ile yetu mpya tangu 2010, tuangalie basi ni yapi mazuri ambayo tunaweza kujivunia. Labda tuanzie pale tarehe 27 kama leo, mwezi Agosti mwaka 2010 tulipata katiba mpya baada ya kuweza kuasisiwa. Safari hii unaweza kusema vipi hadi kufikia sasa kwamba katiba tuliyoipata miaka 14 baadaye tumepata manufaa kutokana nayo?
Ni kweli, kwa sababu unakumbuka zile miaka 20 ambaye tulikuwa nayo sisi kama Wakenya tukijaribu kuandika katiba, tukijaribu kuwa na katiba mpya, kulikuwa na vitu fulani ambaye tulikuwa tunataka lazima ziwe katika ile katiba. Ya kwanza ilikuwa mambo ya ugatuzi ama hii devolution. Ingine ilikuwa mambo ya haki ya kibinadamu. Human rights, tulikuwa tunasema kwamba human rights zilikuwa zimepewa kipango cha chini sana hapa nchini, na tulikuwa tunataka kwamba katiba ikazie kwamba ni haki ya kila mtu na lazima sheria i protect. Tuhakikishe kwamba iko na protection kali sana, ndio watu wote wakuwe na hizo rights wanaweza kuwa nazo. Na pia kulikuwa na vitu zingine, kwa sababu kwa hizo miaka kadhaa ambaye tulikuwa tunatumia ile katiba ya 1963, kulikuwa na watu wengine ambayo tulikuwa tumewatenga ama tulikuwa tumewawacha nyuma. So ilikuwa lazima tuamue kwanza, tukubali kwamba kuna watu ambaye tumewacha nyuma, na hizi marginalized groups tuache kuwa marginalized, na tuhakikishe kwamba kisheria tumehakikisha kwamba development yote, sheria yote, chochote ambaye tutafanya kama Wakenya kila mtu amehusiana. Wale ambaye tulikuwa tumetenga kitambo tumewacha kuwatenga. So kuna vitu kama hizo ambaye tulihakikisha kwamba tumeweka kwa ile katiba. Lakini kumbuka kwamba kuandika katiba ni political process. So lazima kulikuwa na give and take, kwa sababu kuna wale ambaye labda kuna kipengo wataona kwamba hii inawafinyia kama community, na kuna wale ambaye wataona hii labda itamsaidia kisiasa, so ata lobby watu. So kuna hizo nini, ndio maana ile kwanza ya 205 ilianguka. Tukijaribu kuwa na katiba mpya, hiyo ya 205 ikaanguka, lakini tukawa na ile political will sana after zile ghasia ya 208. President marehemu Kibaki akasema lazima tutakuwa na hiyo katiba, hiyo ni kitu ame promise lazima ta deliver to Kenyans. na tukawa na hiyo katiba ya 2010. Sasa hiyo political will ilikuwa lazima kuwe na balancing na watu wakubaliane. Hata wale walikuwa wakikumbuka, watakumbuka kwamba wale ambao walikuwa na support ama na campaign for katiba walikuwa nasema ndio sio perfect, kuna shida kidogo, lakini tupitishe, alafu baada muda tutabadilisha. Ndio.
Kwa hivyo unasema kwa ufupi kwamba japo tulipitisha tukapata katiba mpya mwaka 2010, hatuwezi kusema kikamilifu kwamba iko sawa 100%.
Exactly. Kwa sababu kulikuwa hata wakati tukiipitisha tulikuwa tunaambiwa kwamba kuna zile shida kidogo. Kwa mfano, ukiangalia mambo ya ugatuzi, ile katiba ya kwanza, nafikiri ile Amos draft ilikuwa imepropose counties chache zaidi, lakini sasa wakati tukienda kupitisha hii katiba ya 2010 tukaongeza counties zikawa 47. Sasa hizo zikawa ni counties mingi sana, na tukuangalia ni njia gani ambaye tutahakikisha kwamba governance ya hii, kwa sababu kila mtu alikuwa anasema lazima devolve resources lazima zifikie wananchi pale mashinani, lakini sasa devolve plus governance. Sasa tukawa na 47 governments, na hiyo zilikuwa ni vitu ambaye ilikuwa for political goodwill. Watu wanasema pitisha tu, labda tutarekebisha. Kwa mfano pia tukasema kwamba lazima kuwe na ile 2/3 gender rule, lakini hiyo 2/3 gender rule hakukuwa na full political will ya kuhakikisha kwamba tumeandikisha kwa katiba ni njia gani tutahakikisha kwamba hiyo gender rule tutahakikisha kwamba itakuwa kwa sheria. Watu wakasema tutapitisha sheria baadaye ya kuhakikisha kwamba ni njia gani tutaweka. Sasa compromise position ilikuwa ni kwamba tulikuwa na zile schedules, na zile schedules zilikuwa zinasema kwamba sehemu hii, sehemu ile ingine ya katiba lazima tupitishe sheria within 5 years, within 4 years, within 3 years, ya kuhakikisha kwamba hiyo provision itatekelezwa. So hiyo ndio ilikuwa compromise position, ndio watu wasikubali, ndio watu wakubali, wasikatae ile katiba, kwa sababu ukiangalia kama kwa mfano hiyo 2/3 gender rule ilikuwa na conflicting principles katika ile katiba, kwa sababu kulikuwa na ile principle tumesema kila mtu ile vote yake lazima icount. So mimi nikisimama pale vote yangu lazima icount, lakini pia tunasema kwamba wale tunachagua lazima tuhakikishe kwamba tumechagua watu ambaye kuna ile gender balance ya not more than 1/3 ama not more than 2/3 being kutoka kwa gender moja. Sasa njia gani ambayo utahakikisha kwamba ile free will yangu ya vote yangu translate into hiyo not more than 2/3? Hatukuweza kukubaliana, na tukasema within 5 years tutapitisha sheria ambayo itatekeleza hiyo maneno. Vitu kama hizo.
No, umetaja vizuri kwamba mojawapo wa mambo katika katiba ya mwaka 2010 ni kuangalia haki za kibinadamu ambazo zilikuwa zinakiukwa sana, na pia mengine ambayo umetaja ni kuhusiana na masuala ya ugatuzi, jambo kubwa ambalo Wakenya nafikiri walishabikia sana kuasisiwa kwa ile katiba, na mengine ambayo tulitazamia labda haki upande wa mahakama yetu kuleta pia uhuru na uwazi japo katika masuala ya uchaguzi, lakini hayo labda tutagusa baadaye. Na kwa sababu umeanza na zile serikali za county, mojawapo wa matumaini wa Kenya walikuwa nazo ndio ni serikali za county 47, tuna magavana, tuna maseneta, na nia yake ilikuwa kuleta uongozi karibu na mwananchi, na vile vile kuhakikisha kwamba upo usawa katika labda rasilimali na maendeleo katika maeneo mbalimbali hapa nchini. Tathmini yako ya ugatuzi miaka 14 baadaye tangu kuasisiwa kwa katiba mpya, tumefanya vizuri japo katika masuala ya ugatuzi na county zetu?
Unajua kitu muhimu ni kwamba tulikuwa tunasema tulete resources ndio tulikuwa tunataka sana. Tulikuwa tunasema kwamba resources huwa zinabaki Nairobi na watu pale mashinani hawapati hizo resources. Sana tukisema ni fedha, ni zile services kutoka kwa serikali zilikuwa zipatikani pale mashinani. Hatukuwa tunazungumzia sana uongozi ya kupatikana pale mashinani, kusema kwamba tunataka viongozi wapatikane pale mashinani. Tulikuwa wakati watu walikuwa nazungumza, walikuwa nasema ikiwa watu watakuwa napata fedha na unaweza ukapata ile development, na unaweza ukapata zile services. Sio ati lazima uende Nairobi ndio upate passport. Unaweza ukapata passport pale karibu na wewe. Sio lazima uende Mombasa ndio uende ukapate ID. Unaweza ukapata ID karibu na wewe. Tulikuwa tunasema ikiwa hizi services zitakuja karibu, then hiyo pressure ya kuzungumzia president itapunguza, kwa sababu watu walikuwa nataka president ama raisi ambaye ni wao, mtu wao, kabila yao, kwa sababu walikuwa nafikiria ikiwa ni kabila yetu ndio wataleta district headquarters karibu, ndio wataleta offices za serikali karibu, ndio tutapata hizi resources karibu. So hiyo ilikuwa ni kitu moja. Sasa shida kidogo ilitokea ni kwa sababu tulileta leadership pamoja na resources. So hiyo leadership na resources tukawa na hizi 47 governments ambaye ni very heavy cost kwa wananchi, kwa sababu kila governor lazima awe na deputy wake, lazima awe ni serikali kamili, lazima awe na staff wake, na hiyo sasa ikaleta burden kubwa. So unaona kwamba zile resources zikikuja chini mashinani zinatumika sana, na tumesikia governors wakisema kila mwaka kwamba percentage kubwa ya pesa wanapata ni ya running costs. So ni ya kulipa mshahara, ya kumaintain vitu, na sio ya development vile tulikuwa tunatarajia. So labda ni muda tukae kama Wakenya, tuangalie ni njia gani tunaweza kuhakikisha kwamba tubaki na zile counties vile tumesema, lakini governance structure ya hizo counties labda iwe ni tofauti. Uliona governors, nafikiri ni Devolution 2, government 2, walianza sana kuwa na hizi blocks. Ndiyo. Kuna hizi blocks waliform ndio wakuje pamoja waseme tuangalie ni njia gani ambayo tutatafuta resources ama tutafanya kazi kama block. Ni kwa sababu walikuwa na realize kwamba hizo counties kama unit ni ndogo sana ya kuwa self productive. So hiyo ni kitu ambaye lazima tuangalie. Lakini pia kuna vitu zingine ambayo tulikuwa tumesema. Kwa mfano tulisema kwamba tunataka Wakenya wazoee kuona kwamba mwanamke, mlemavu, kijana, mwanaume wote wanaweza kuwa kiongozi, kwa sababu kiongozi ni ile kipawa ambayo unapewa na kizazi chako, ni character yako, na sio kitu ambaye lazima iwe tu wewe ni mwanaume ama wewe ni kijana ndio unaweza ukaongoza watu. So tulikuwa tunasema kila mtu lazima pate hiyo nafasi ya uongozi, na tukasema katika ile katiba kwamba tunataka representation ya hizi categories. Lazima kuwe na women, kuwe na youth, kuwe na marginalized communities. Sio lazima nione tu community yangu, hata ikiwa nimeona mtu ambaye ametoka kwa kabila ndogo sana ambaye wako wachache sana, nijue ikiwa na ile kipawa ya kazi anaweza hakikisha kwamba hizo resources kila mtu atapata. So tukasema marginalized pia lazima waingizwe, lakini hatukuweka, kwa sababu hizi ni affirmative action, hatukuweka ile sunset clause, tuliziweka pale tu. So kwa sababu ya kuziweka pale tu haijakuwa na effort kubwa sana ya kuhakikisha kwamba tumeweka zile systems na processes in place ya kuhakikisha kwamba watu watazoea kuona kwamba unaweza ukapata kijana ambaye ni kiongozi mzuri na umchague, kwa sababu tunakumbuka wale tunawasema kama Tomboya nani walikuwa vijana wakati walikuwa viongozi. Prime CS hizi aliingia uongozi akiwa kijana. So tunasema lazima tukue na hizo clauses ya kuhakikisha kwamba kuna sunset clauses, ndio effort izidi zaidi kuhakikisha kwamba hizi systems zitakuwa inculcated katika sheria ya Kenya.
Baadaye kidogo tangazia swala la labda mzigo kwa Wakenya katika masuala ya county zetu, na laiti kuru uko tangekuwa hapa daktari, maana pia ilikuwa na hoja ile kupunguza mzigo. Lakini umesema kwamba angalau tulikuwa tulete rasilimali karibu na mwananchi. Lakini kwa sasa kabla tutoke pale, mwananchi tayari ameanza kupata kile ambacho alitazamia kutokana na ugatuzi, ama anapata ile tunasema road deal, kitu tofauti na kile ambacho alitarajia. Japo umezungumzia gharama, na magavana hata sasa hivi wanalalama kwamba imebidi kwamba wachukue mikopo kuhakikisha kwamba wanaendeleza shughuli za county.
Kweli. Utasikia watu wakisema kwa counties chache kwamba wameona ugatuzi, wameona benefit ya ugatuzi. Utasikia kwa counties fulani watu wakisema for the first time wameona tarmac road. Watu wameanza kuziona, lakini chambua zaidi utasikiza kwamba most of the counties bado watu wako na complaints. Watasema kwamba zile county governments kile imenea sana ni corruption. Wanasema kwamba zile county offices unaona mtu ana pesa, suddenly juzi ulikuwa unamuona saizi ana buildings 3 kubwa pale katika county. Wanatengeneza zile mahoteli, wanatengeneza zile buildings, watu wanaona zile buildings lakini ni private buildings, sio public buildings za watu. So itakuwa ni muhimu kwa sababu watu saizi hawataki ugatuzi iondolewe, kwa sababu kila mtu anataka wawe na zile resources pale karibu. Wameona umuhimu ya kuwa na ile ofisi ya serikali pale karibu, mali unaweza ukaenda ukaongea na ukapeleka shida yako na wakatatua shida yako, lakini zile resources bado haziwezi zikafika kamili kwa sababu ya hiyo heavy burden ambayo iko kwa wananchi. So labda tukiangalia ni njia gani tunaweza tukahakikisha kwamba hii governance iwache kuwa a heavy cost kwa wa Kenya, labda itasaidia ndio hizo resources ambazo zinaenda kwa counties ziende straight to development projects. Kwa mfano although ni controversial issue, ukiangalia hii maneno ya CDF tulihakikisha kwamba kila MP anapata CDF na tukaweka zile systems na sheria ya kuhakikisha kwamba zile CDF zikifika cost, unapata CDF iko na staff kama 4 ama 5. Pesa zaidi inaenda kwa bursaries, inaenda kwa kutengeneza shule, inaenda kwa kufanya kitu. So kila mtu anaweza kaangalia MP wake kasema huyu MP anatumia CDF vibaya ama anaitumia vizuri, kwa sababu wanaona shule zikitengenezwa, wanaona bursaries watu wangapi wanazipata, kama inasaidia na vitu kama hizo. So ikiwa tutakuwa na devolution ya resources ifike pale mashinani na kuwe na thin staff. Lakini unajua ukishasema ni government, ni county government lazima iwe na ile heavy administrative presence.
Na pale kwa sababu besema lazima iwe heavy pia. Wapo wanahoji kwamba ijapo katika zile county governments basi inakuwa tunarudia tu kile tu tunaona katika serikali kuu. Kwa mfano ndio kuna gavana, kuna rais, kuna naibu gavana. So kule kuna waziri kwa mfano wa michezo, kule kwenye county kuna waziri wa michezo. Ipo haja ya masuala hayo yote. Wapo tuna waziri katika serikali kuu, waziri labda katika serikali ya county kwa mfano, natumia tu mfano labda waziri wa michezo, mambo na mazingira. Inakuwa ni kama tunajirudia,
ndio watu wanaona, na sio kwa kaunti moja 47. So inakuwa ni heavy, inakuwa ni conflicting. Sasa saizi ukiangalia most of hizi county governments, ukiangalia zile sheria zimepitisha hizi miaka 14 zimepita, utaona most of them other than zile finance, zile za pesa, hakuna sheria mingi wamepitisha ambaye ni ya kuhusu county ama kuendeleza county mbele, kwa sababu tulikuwa tunaangalia kwamba hizi county governments watakuwa napitisha sheria ambaye itahakikisha kwamba hiyo county iko na structure na laws ambaye zitazisaidia ku develop na kuhakikisha kwamba imekuwa systemized for your county. So ikiwa ni county ambaye watu wengi ni wavuvi, labda kutakuwa na zile sheria inahakikisha kwamba hiyo kazi inaweza ikapendekezwa pale. Ikiwa ni county ambaye watu wengi ni wakulima, itakuwa na hizo sheria. Hatujaona sana kama vitu kama hizi zinatendeka. So kwa mfano tunaona wanafanya county bills ya kuhakikisha kwamba ile pesa ambayo imetoka pale national government ni njia gani ambayo watahakikisha wameitumia. Utaona kwamba zile counties ambaye zimejaribu kulevi, tumeona kwa counties kadhaa kulikuwa na reject finance bill mwaka huu. Wale wamejaribu kuraise hizo living ya taxes. Tumeona kwamba kulikuwa na ile rejection ya wale wamejaribu kuanzisha new taxing measures. Wanasema tutatax mbuzi, tutatax ng'ombe ama kuku. Kumekuwa na pushback kutoka kwa wananchi. So ni muhimu tuangalie ni njia gani, kwa sababu Kenya ni kubwa na tena ni ndogo. Utapata kwamba kufanya biashara, hata ukiwa mkulima, utapata una shamba yako in one county, lakini market iko kwa county nyingine. So ni njia gani tutahakikisha kwamba zile sheria hazifinyilii mtu ambaye ni mkulima na inasaidia mtu ambaye ni muuzaji, yule ana ile market pale. So labda ikiwa ni national government itasaidia kwa kuharmonize, lakini county government italeta laws tofauti ambaye italeta labda discrimination kwa categories ya watu wengine, na tayari kwa katiba article 27 tumesema kuna discrimination kwa njia yoyote ile, kusitokee discrimination. So inakuwa ni tricky. So nafikiri if there's anything inapaswa tukae tuzungumzie saizi kama wa Kenya ni hiyo devolution. Ni njia gani tunataka kuhakikisha kwamba devolution itafanya kazi? Tulizungumzia wakati tulianza CDF na tukazungumza kama wa Kenya na tukaandika ile sheria ilisaidia na tukaona kwamba imesaidia CDF. Saizi utapata watu wengi wakisema CDF inasaidia. Watu wengi wakisema CDF hatutaki iende. Angalia hata wale hawataki CDF iwe chini ya MP, watasema angalia ni njia gani tunaweza kuwa na CDF lakini labda sio chini ya MP, kwa sababu wameona MP wao wanafanya kazi mbaya na CDF, but hawataki iende. Wamerealize hiyo value ya CDF. Ndio tunasema it is a high time Kenyans pia wa realize value ya resources kuja chini.
Na tumezungumzia sana masuala ya ugatuzi, lakini pia siku hii ambayo tunasema ni siku ya katiba, baadhi wapo wanaharakati ambao wamepanga maandamano hapo, vijana pia ambao wametaja kwamba wataandamana. Moja yazo ya malengo yao ni kile ambacho wanasema ni ukiukaji wa katiba hii ambayo tuko nayo kutoka mwaka 2010. Na tukiangalia kama chapter 6 ya katiba ambayo inazungumzia kuhusu uongozi na uadilifu ama uwajibikaji, na tuangalie labda chapter 10 ya katiba ambayo inazungumzia national values na principles of governance. Na umetaja pia masuala ya ufisadi ambayo kwamba kidogo tukielekea sana katika county pia zimeonekana kukithiri. Sijui wewe kama wakili pia wa kikatiba na mahakama ya juu unahisi vipi kwamba vipo vipengele katika katiba ambavyo vimekiukwa, na tukiangalia kama hizo chapter 2 ambazo nimetaja, iwapo labda tungezingatia kikamilifu na kukumbatia, labda hatungekuwa tunazungumzia ufisadi nchini Kenya?
Ni kweli sana, lakini tulizi water down wakati tulikuwa tunaenda election 2013, kwa sababu wakati huo ukikumbuka, baada ya 2010 katiba kupitishwa, wakati marehemu Kibaki alikuwa rais, mtu akitajwa akiwa CS, siku hizo tulikuwa tunaita minister, akiwa minister na ametajwa kwa kitu ile yoyote ambaye labda kuna swali, Kibaki alisema watu wa step aside. Hata marafiki wake ambaye tulikuwa tunajua ni rafiki wa ndani kama Kiraitu Murungi wali step aside, wakangoja vitu kuwe na ile investigation. Tuliona kwamba Willy Mtunga akiwa CJ, wakati deputy wake alitajwa kwamba amemguza mtu mapua ama sijui amefanya nini, alikuwa na tabia mbaya, wakasema lazima aende, akatolewa, aka step aside. Lakini baada hiyo, wakati tulikuwa tunaelekea elections, tukasema kwamba tunataka kuwa na ile tikiti ya former president Uhuru na current president Ruto, na watu wakasema kwamba hawa hawezi kuwa kwa tikiti kwa sababu wako na ile case ambayo iko pale Hague, na koti kubwa ikasema kwamba kama kesi hajakamilika, huwezi ukasema kwamba mtu hawezi kusimama kwa sababu hiyo kesi ijakamilika. Na hapo ndio tukaanza ku water down zile provisions za sheria ambayo tulikuwa nayo, kwa sababu wakati watu waliona imefanyika hivyo kwa national level, imefanyika hivyo kwa presidential candidates, watu wote wakasema, na tunajua kwamba koti huwa inachukua miaka 10, miaka 8, miaka 15 ndio kesi iishe, kwa sababu tumesikia CJ akisema ako na staff enough, ako na courts enough, amekuwa na complaints pia yeye kusema kwamba ana ile uwezo wa kuhakikisha kwamba cases zitaisha kwa miezi 2 ama 3. So hizi cases zikichukua muda, unaona, mimi ikiwa mtu anasema niko na kesi na nimeenda pale IBC wataenda waseme kesi ya Mili bado iko kotini, haijakamilika, so nitaenda kotini, nitaenda nisimame kama candidate, kama nataka kuwa women rep ama nataka kuwa MP ama governor. Na ikaanza ku water down Sisemi kwamba wale wako na cases wote ni unlawful people lakini nasema kwamba ilianza water down zile standards ambaye tulikuwa tumeweka ama tulikuwa tumepatia wale watu ambaye inatakikana wawe pale katika public office, kwa sababu tulikuwa tunataka pale public office ni mtu ambaye umemwamini kwa kiwango cha juu zaidi, ni mtu ambaye unatarajia ile pesa ya umma kabla aiguze lazima atahakikisha kwamba anaiguza kwa njia ambaye sheria inataka. Lakini sasa tukaweka mtu anaweza kwa pale hata kama kukiwa na swali kuhusu tabia yake ama karakta yake, so water down, na hiyo ikaleta shida. Na ndio maana saa hizi unaona hizi maneno za Gen Z zikaanza, kwa sababu unaona pale watu wanaona kwamba labda wale watu ambaye wako pale uongozi, mtu akiona umenunua nyumba hawajui kwamba kuna zile loan, kuna zile packages unapewa katika hiyo position, hawaamini, wanasema ni pesa yao umetumia. Mtu akiona kwamba umesema bank statement yako imebadilika kidogo, hawajui kwamba kuna ile salary unapata, kuna zile allowances unapata wakati una travel, na kuna travel mingi, labda ndio imefanya account yako imebadilika. Wanafikiria labda ni kwa sababu tayari kulikuwa na swali, na hiyo swali ijakamilika. Na kumbuka tumeona wakati wa Gen Z kwamba hii information, nikisimama leo niseme mimi nataka kiti, mtu atatoka na information about kitu mtu alifanya 1998. Ndio watu wanazijua, watu wako na information na ziko. So kama hiyo information ilikuwa ijatatuliwa, watu watafikiria kwamba labda haijatatuliwa kwa sababu wewe ni mtu ambaye haufai kuwa kwa ile ofisi. So hiyo ni kitu ambaye ni muhimu tuhakikishe. Unasikia kwamba saa hizi tumeona kwamba anti-corruption walijaribu kukaa ngumu hata wakati wa vetting, wakasema kwamba kuna watu fulani ambaye hatuwezi kuclear kwa vetting. Na sasa kuna ile move ya kubadilisha hiyo sheria ya anti-corruption. Wakenya wengi wanaona kwamba ni backlash kwa sababu anti-corruption walikuwa najaribu kufanya ile kazi yao. So inakuwa ni ile suspicion watu wanayo kwa sababu ya zile lapses tumekuwa nayo kwa process ya kutekeleza katiba.
Naam, shukrani sana Bi Lwanga, unajieleza vizuri kabisa na hata unatoa kijasho. Mambo ya katiba si mchezo. Mtazamaji wapo najiunga nasi, tunaangazia miaka 14 safari ya kutumia katiba mpya ambayo iliasisiwa mwaka 2010. Nakumbuka shughuli nzima hii ya kupata katiba mpya ilianza mnamo miaka ya 90 huko na 2000, na kamati ya kwanza ikiwa nasimamiwa na Profesa Yashpal Gai, sio wakafanya mambo yao ukumbi wa Bomas. Lakini turejee Bi Meli, nikupatie nafasi, naona kidogo unataka kupunguza jasho limezidi, sio joto liko hapa la kisiasa. Tungependa pia mtazamaji na msikilizaji uende pale katika mitandao yetu ya kijamii, wapo una swali lako ama uko na maoni yako. Unahisi vipi miaka 14 baadaye? Tuko vizuri kikatiba? Je, ni wakati wa kufanya marekebisho katika katiba? Maana ndio sehemu ya pili tunaingia. Zipo hoja kutoka sehemu mbalimbali kuhusu swala la marekebisho ya katiba. Tupe kauli zako, na muda si mrefu, muda ukiruhusu pia tutakuwa tunapokea simu chache. Asante Bi Lwanga, turejee hapa sasa tena. Na tumeona kutoka sehemu tofauti, tumesikia baadhi ya wanaharakati, tumeona wananchi wa kawaida, tumeona baadhi ya wale tunasema Gen Z wanajitokeza wakisema sasa tunataka marekebisho ya katiba. Kuna wale mmoja sitaki kumtaja hapa, ambaye niliona kwamba anasema, je, ipo haja kwa mfano ya kuwa na hao viongozi wote wanasema Kenya iko over represented ijapo katika wale wabunge, na ningependa sana Ikulu angekuwa hapa, manake aligusia sana swala hilo, lakini hayuko, labda siku nyingine atakuwa hapa. Na wapo wengi wanahisi ya kwamba pia ni wakati mwafaka wa kufanyia katiba marekebisho, na sana sana wengi wametaja kwamba inaonekana wale ambao wanawakilisha wa Kenya, wabunge, maseneta, magavana, wapo wengi. Wengine wanasema turudi kwa provinces zile 8 tulikuwa nazo. Wengine wanasema basi maeneo bunge yapunguzwe kutoka 290 na kadhalika. Hebu tusikie kutoka kwako, wakili wa kikatiba, ni wakati mwafaka wa kufanyia katiba? Basi ni vipengele vipi vinafaa kufanywa marekebisho, ama ni katiba kwa ujumla ambayo ina matatizo?
Asio katiba kwa ujumla ambayo iko na matatizo. Kuna sehemu ambaye lazima tuangalie. Kwa mfano, nafikiri watu wengi watakubali kwamba kuna over representation. Na hiyo over representation ni kwa sababu ikiwa tuko na wale MCAs ambaye kazi yao tunaelewa sana na wanasaidia na ni watu ni rahisi kuwapata kwa sababu wako karibu na sisi pale katika county, ni kwa nini tuko na karibu 400 MPs pale katika national level? Watu wengi wanauliza hiyo swali. Ikiwa tulisema tunataka tuwe na viongozi ambaye wako karibu, ambayo tunaweza tukawafikia kwa urahisi, tukaleta pale MCAs, tukasema MCAs wawe kama MPs, tukaanza kuwaita honorable, waheshimiwa, sio councillors vile walikuwa kitambo, lakini ni legislators, tukawaleta pale mashinani. Ni kwa nini tena tuwe na wale karibu 400 MPs at national level? Ikiwa tuko na MPs ambayo wanapitisha pale katika National Assembly, wanapitisha sheria, ni kwa nini tuwe na senators ambaye mpaka wa leo hatuja hakikisha ni exactly kazi yao, other than impeachment ya governors, impeachment ya president, na ile devolution ya resources, ya kuhakikisha kwamba resources hiyo appropriation ya resources imetendeka kwa njia ya uhaki. Ni kazi gani ambaye wako nayo kama senator? Sio ile upper house vile tulikuwa tunatarajia wakati tulikuwa tumeanza. Ni muhimu watu wazungumzie. Hata ukienda kwa koti, watu wamekuwa wakisema tulienda tukasema tutoke from Court of Appeal tuende mpaka Supreme Court. Tukiwa na ile Supreme Court, saizi ni kama tumetoka from utaenda uende kwanza kwa arbitration pale kwa machief, mzungumze kwa wazee, labda mkose kusikizana, uende kwa magistrates court. Ukitoka kwa magistrates court utaapili uende high court. Ukishatoka kwa appeal high court utaapili uende Court of Appeal. Ukisha appeal kutoka Court of Appeal utaenda upeleke hiyo appeal Supreme Court. Watu wamesema kwamba inaonekana ni kwamba tuliongeza tu another level ya pale. Ni muhimu tuzungumzie hizi maneno, tuone ni njia gani, ni Supreme Court aina gani tulikuwa tunatarajia kama Wakenya, na ni aina gani tunataka, ni Senate aina gani tulikuwa tunataka sisi kama Wakenya, na ni Senate ambaye itakuwa na uwezo gani, na lazima iwe na numbers gani ya wale viongozi pale, kwa sababu kila kiongozi akiingia, na tumefanya uongozi hapa Kenya ni kama kazi, kwa sababu mtu akipata akiwa elected kama kiongozi, mtu anasema congratulations, umepata kazi nzuri, na sio utumishi vile tulikuwa tunatarajia kitambo. So ni kazi, na kazi lazima iwe na zile perks. So ukiingia pale na ni hao wanatengeneza sheria, so utapata wamejiwekea perks. Ukiingia pale ni loans za kuhakikisha kwamba unanunua nyumba na unafanya vitu fulani, na ni haki yako, kwa sababu hata wewe ukiwa na kazi unataka uwe na perks mzuri katika pale katika kazi yako. So ni muhimu tuzungumze, reduce hizi numbers, na tuhakikishe kwamba tuko na zile numbers ambaye will make sense. Wale wanafanya national kazi at national level, tunataka wawe wangapi? Do we need more MCAs karibu na sisi ambaye ni watu unaweza kuwapata kwa haraka, watu ambaye unaweza kuzungumza nao, ama do we need more MPs tupunguze MCAs? Ni muhimu tuzungumze.
Kwa hivyo ipo haja ya marekebisho katiba kwa vipengele kadhaa.
Nafikiri kuna haja.
Na kwa sababu umetaja pale masuala ya mahakama, moja yazo pia mambo ambayo najua katiba ilikuwa inaangazia ni leo tunasema judicial reforms, ama mabadiliko katika idara ya mahakama, kuhakikisha kwamba Mkenya labda anapata haki. Na hapa tunazungumzia masuala ya katiba. Sijui unahisi vipi kuhusiana na idara ya mahakama na vile vile tume za utekelezaji wa katiba? Wamefanya majukumu yao ipasavyo kuhakikisha kwamba haki inadumishwa na katiba inazingatiwa ipasavyo? Kumbuka upo wakati tulikuwa hata na wizara ya masuala ya katiba. Kwa sasa hatuna tume hizo za katiba. Mahakama ambayo tuko nayo, tuna mahakama ya juu zaidi kutokana na katiba mpya, zimefanya haki ipasavyo, mwananchi apate haki, na vile vile kuhakikisha kwamba katiba inazingatiwa ipasavyo.
Nafikiri mahakama imejaribu sana, kwa sababu hata wakati wa BBI ambaye ilikuwa inapendekezwa na rais ambaye alikuwa sitting president, koti iliweza ikasema kwamba no, rudi back to the ball. Na tumeona mara kadhaa ikiwa kuna kitu ambaye serikali imefanya ambaye ni kinyume na sheria, koti imewaambia no, back to the drawing board. Hata saizi hii swali ambaye imesumbua sana wanasheria na sana viongozi wetu pale katika legislators kuamua ni public participation, ni kiwango gani ambayo utasema kumekuwa na sufficient public participation. Imewasumbua hata kupitisha sheria mpaka wa leo ya kuonyesha ni njia gani ambayo public participation itatekelezwa. Unaona koti imejaribu kupeana direction ya kueleza kwamba public participation lazima mfanye hii ama mfanye kile, so koti imekuwa ikisaidia. Nafikiri ile shida tumekuwa nayo ni kwamba hizi commissions, siku hizi watu wengi wamesahau kwamba tulikuwa na independent commissions. Kwa sababu tulikuwa tunawasikia sana, walikuwa nazungumza, walikuwa nasimamia haki ya binadamu, walikuwa na hold government to account, walikuwa kizungumza mara kwa mara. Kwa sasa nafikiria Wanakenya wengi huwa wanakumbuka Human Rights Commission juu wamezungumza sana wakati watu walikuwa na wawa ama wanakuwa abducted, na pia anti-corruption kidogo bado watu walikuwa nasema kwamba there's more anti-corruption wanaweza kafanya, but watu wamekuwa wakiwasikiza. Ukiambia mtu bado tuko na commission zingine, labda watakuwa startled kusema commission gani hiyo, hata watakumbuka kwamba kuna commissions kwa sababu wamekuwa kimya kwa muda. So it is important saizi, kwa sababu tulikuwa tunasema sisi kama Wakenya tuli create another arm of government ambayo tulikuwa tunaita independent offices. Hata wakati walikuwa naenda kuwa na zile annual meetings zao wakikutana, media ilikuwa ina cover na kulikuwa na lot of news kutoka kwa hizo meetings za independent offices ya Auditor General, pamoja na all those independent offices under katiba. Lakini saizi hatuwasikii, na ndio maana labda watu wanaona kwamba katiba itekelezwi.
Na muda si mrefu tutakwenda upande wa pili, tupokee simu chache, Rashida akiwa pale on standby. Lakini kwa ufupi tu ulivyosema, umetaja mahakama, umesema wamejaribu sana, lakini pia tunajua vile unasema uhuru wa idara na vile uhuru wa utendakazi katika ile tunaita three arms of government. Tuna bunge, vile tuna mahakama, na tuko na ile executive. Mara si moja tumeona labda mahakama imetoa amri, lakini ile amri pia imefanya vipi, imekiukwa. Chukua hata mfano kwa sasa, gavana wa Meru Kawera Mwangaza ambaye kwamba pia aliweza kubanduliwa na bunge la county, vile bunge la seneti, lakini akakimbia mahakamani. Mahakama ikasema basi asalia afisini, bado kesi yake inafaa kusikizwa. Lakini jana pia tumeona wananchi wanakwenda wanataka kumuondoa pale afisini wakisema sisi tunajua kwamba yeye alishabanduliwa. Kule kukosa kutii, labda tunasema yale ambayo mahakama yanasema, inatuweka wapi kama taifa? Na si mara moja, kutoka pande zote, hata wakati mwingine kutoka kwa executive utakuta zile amri za mahakama zinakiukwa.
Ni kweli, na hiyo shida ilianza from even the former regime, wakati hata decisions ya independent arms of government President Uhuru alikuwa anashindwa kutekeleza. Tunakumbuka wote, ilichukua muda sana for yeye. In fact alikataa, ilikuwa first action ya current president William Ruto ya swear in wale judges, alikataa. Na hiyo ni kazi ya independent arm of government, walikuwa wamekamilisha. So tumekuwa tukiona, unajua watu wakiona kwamba president mwenyewe is not adhering to orders ya koti, then inakuwa trickle down effect na inakuwa ni kitu mbaya sana. Lakini nitasema nimefurahia sana ile kazi nimekuwa nikiona civil society wakisema, kwa sababu civil society wamekuwa wakizungumza sana, na pia media wakizungumza sana wakisema tii orders za koti, kwa sababu ni last resort. Ni last resort for anybody. Ikiwa leo wewe uko serikali, kesho umetolewa na hiyo serikali inajaribu kukufinya, the only hope uko nayo ni judiciary, ikiwa ni independent judiciary, na ikiwa ni judiciary ambaye order zake zinakuwa respected. So hata kama ukubaliani na hiyo maoni ama hiyo order ya koti, itii kwanza, alafu appeal. Na vile nimesema saizi, tumeona kwamba watu wamekuwa wakicomplain sana mawakili, ni kwamba processes imekuwa ni kama lazima uende mpaka Supreme Court, na watu walikuwa natarajia Supreme Court itakuwa inakaa kwa mambo machache sana, na ikikaa itakuwa ni shaking news. The whole country watakuwa nasikia kwamba leo Supreme Court wanakaa wanaamua kitu fulani, kwa sababu itakuwa ni kitu shaking na kitu ambaye itabadilisha systems ya governance nchini. Lakini tumeona imekuwa karibu kesi zote zinaenda appeal Supreme Court. So bado hata ujaridika na order ya High Court, you still have a right to appeal to the Court of Appeal. Bado uko na right kuenda Supreme Court. So the journey bado iko ndefu. Hakuna haja ya kuto obey.
Okay. Wacha tuende upande wa pili. Rashid, wapo unanipata, tupokee simu kama 3 alafu tuweze kumalizia kipindi siku ya leo. Rashid.
Bila shaka msikilizaji, karibu sana. Kwa sasa nambari zetu za simu ni 07001766 kama ulivyoweza kusikia pale Bilwanga akiweza kuelezea safari hii ya miaka 14 ya katiba. Je, na wewe una swali kwake? Hello Zinga.
KBC Radio Taifa.
Yes.
Bwana Mamkondo.
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Wewe naitwa Peter Karambe kutoka Mpeketoni.
Karibu Peter.
Moja ambayo na Rashid nakupendea. Nilikwambia wewe unafanyaga googling na unafanyaga research. Nataka uniulizie mheshimiwa hapo.
Ndio.
Kitu kimoja. Representation ambayo tunaanza kutoka kwa the national government.
Naam.
And then tunaenda kwenye ugatuzi ambao tuliingia. Ambao tunapata kuna senator ambaye ni oversight wa governor. Huyu ni hawa watu wote na hiyo protocol yote na hizo ofisi zote zinaangazia mwananchi mmoja. Zile pesa zinatumika ni ngapi Rashid, ambazo tunakamuliwa sisi kama watoza ushuru?
Asante. Zinga, hello.
Hello, Taifa. Huyo ni Mboto ya Barara.
Karibu sana.
Nauliza swali ndogo kabisa. Nauliza the president ya akose kusikia mahakama. Akiongoje mpaka toke ofisini ataweza kuchukua hatua.
Haya, asante. Swali la mwisho, simu ya mwisho kumradhi. Hello Zinga.
Hello Radio Taifa.
Yes.
Umekutana Shibendo Ikolomani Kakamega County.
Karibu sana.
Ikolomani constituency. Mimi nataka niulize mheshimiwa hivi. Tulipo bunge la Senate tulisikia ya kwamba huyo mama ametolewa. Na mbona imefika wakati tena wameanza kusema hodi shughulikia. Kwani hiyo Senate haina nguvu? Kama haina nguvu inafanya nini?
Asante kwako Dora.
Shukran Rashid kutoka upande wa pili. Wakili, tuanzie hapo. Senate ina nguvu vipi?
Senate ina nguvu, lakini hiyo ndio uzuri ya kuwa na systems ambazo zinafanya kazi. Kwa sababu kumbuka kwamba impeachment ni both political na legal process. Kuna wale ambao watakuwa wanaangalia the political import ya hiyo kazi ambayo unafanya. Kwa sababu kwa mfano, ikiwa watu wanakuangalia wanaona kwamba wewe wale watu ambao walikuajiri kazi ambaye ni wananchi wakikuangalia na wanaona kwamba wewe interest yako sio sana sana kwao, kuna hiyo right watakutoa. Tumeona kwa mfano nikienda South Africa wakiwa dissatisfied na president wamemimpeach, wakamtoa president kwa sababu chama haitaki watu wawache chama, kwa sababu wanaona kwamba yule mtu ambaye wamepatia kazi hafanyi kazi mzuri. Lakini kukutoa kwa kazi, kumbuka tulisema kwamba hizi public office hapa Kenya tumeifanya ni kama ni kazi. Mtu akipata au mwambie unafanya kitu muhimu, unasaidia wananchi, unamwambia congratulations, umepata kazi mzuri. So ikiwa ni kazi, mtu akikutoa kazini lazima afuate sheria na lazima ifanye kulingana na sheria. So ikiwa Senate walifanya ile impeachment process tofauti na kile ambaye inatakikana kikatiba ama kulingana na sheria, then akona haki yule governor ambaye ametolewa kwenda kotini, koti seme kwamba hiyo process Senate ilifanya sio mzuri.
Okay.
So hiyo ni muhimu. Kuna hii kazi ambaye ya president ambaye court orders. Tunajua kwamba one of the grounds ya impeachment ya president ni kusema kwamba huyu president amekuwa anafanya vitu kinyume cha katiba. Huwa tunaona kwamba mtu akichukua office, kila mtu anachukua oath of office kulingana na katiba. Wana swear to the katiba, to the constitution of Kenya. Hizo ndio zile instruments of power ambaye wanapewa wakati wanachukua zile ofisi. So kuna ile impeachment ambaye unaweza ukapeleka ukasema kwamba consistent disobedience ya court orders, anafanya vitu kinyume na katiba, inatakikana tutoe huyu rais kutoka kwa ofisi. Na tumeona watu wakisema vitu kama hizo wanaweza kufanya, na hiyo ni kazi ya Senate ya kuhakikisha impeachment imetendeka. Representation, ndio maana nilikuwa nasema, kwa sababu kila ofisi kija, ukiwa na yule senator anakuwa na PA wake, anakuwa na secretary, anakuwa na ofisi yake. Kuna way tutasema kwamba it is creating employment, kwa sababu hao ni watu wote wanapata employment, lakini hao ni watu wote being employed under public service, sio private sector. So inakuwa ni mzigo kubwa kwa Wakenya. Ndio maana nasema ni muhimu tuanze kuzungumza, tuone ni mara ngapi utapata seneta wako uzungumze na yeye na umwambie kitu ambaye itakuhusu, na ni mara ngapi utapata MCA, mara ngapi utapata MP, ndio tuone ni nani muhimu kwetu sisi kama Wakenya. Ndio tuone ni ofisi gani tunataka kuziwacha pale.
Okay. Tukielekea kutamatisha tu kwa ufupi zaidi, Mkenya ambaye tumegusia masuala kwamba wapo wengi ambao wanasema ipo haja ya marekebisho ya katiba, ama wachache wanasema basi mtu akitaka marekebisho ya katiba, hatua zipi zinachukuliwa, ama kipi ambacho kinahitajika ili katiba ifanywe marekebisho? Kwa ufupi tu, kwa kisheria.
Kifupi, kuna ile people's initiative ile unaweza ukafanya kama ile Ekuru alifanya, unaenda ukachukua votes kutoka kwa watu, ukasema kwamba signatures sio votes, ukasema kwamba ni hii section ya katiba nataka kubadilisha. Baada hiyo, ikiwa utapata ya kutosha na hizo signatures, upeleke IBC, alafu IBC yone ni sawa, wataipeleka kwa counties ita debate, wakisha debate alafu itapelekwa National Assembly na Senate, alafu ipitishwe, alafu kutakuwa na ile referendum ya confirmation, kwa sababu ilianza na wananchi. Kuna ile kurekebisha katiba ikiwa ni part of katiba ambaye haiguzi zile vital sections kama Bill of Rights, ambaye inaweza anzishwa pale bungeni. Mtu anaweza ka propose amendments, akipata 2/3 of the house wa vote for hiyo amendment, what amend.
Kwa hivyo umesema signature milioni 1 zinahitajika.
Milioni 1.
Na hatimaye siwezi kosa kutaja hili, safari ya kuafikia 2/3 gender rule katika katiba ya Kenya pia imekuwa ni safari ndefu. Tuko wapi sasa katika masuala ya jinsia na katiba yetu? Ndio unaona kwamba kwenda mbele tutafika wakati ambapo tutafikia hilo kikamilifu.
Kuna cases kadhaa watu walipeleka kotini, na CJ alitoa directive kusema kwamba hizi cases zitakuwa consolidated, alafu kuna date ya kusikiza, kwa sababu watu wanasema kwa sababu National Assembly wameshindwa kupitisha hiyo sheria, inatakikana waende nyumbani. Tayari former CJ Maraga alikuwa ametoa advisory, akasema kwamba kwa sababu hawajapitisha within the legal time ambayo ilikuwa inatakikana, inapaswa bunge ikue adjourned na waende nyumbani, tuwe na bunge mpya. Lazima tutakuwa na bunge mpya mpaka wapitishe hiyo sheria ya kuhakikisha kwamba tutakuwa na hiyo realization ya 2/3 gender rule.
Lakini tatizo liko wapi? Labda mbona imekuwa safari ndefu, vizuizi, shida iko wapi? Kwamba kuna political will ama namna gani kuhusiana na swala hili la uwakilishi wa jinsia?
Ukiniuliza mimi kama wakili, shida ni kwamba ni two conflicting principles, na njia ambayo tunajaribu kuzi-implement ni ngumu. Huwezi kuniambia niko na ile haki, my vote counts, alafu niambie tena vote yangu lazima ni vote for a man ama ni vote for a woman. I'll vote for who I want. So tukitaka zile principles labda tuangalie, kwa sababu kuna different ways of democracy. Tunaweza kuwa tuna vote for chama, alafu chama ihakikishe tukisha vote for chama na hiyo chama imepata seats kama 10, wahakikishe kwamba kwa hizo seats 10 wameleta 2/3 gender principle, wame include youth, wame include person with disabilities, kwa sababu watakuwa nao kwa membership yao. Lakini kusema niende direct kuvote na unaniambia lazima ni vote for mlemavu, lazima ni vote for kijana, ama lazima ni vote for mtu ametoka kwa marginalized community, ni ngumu. Ndio.
Naam. Shukrani sana, nafikiri tutakuwa tunakamilishia pale. Mambo ya katiba sio mambo ambayo tunaweza kuimaliza katika siku moja ama katika mjadala kama huu, lakini tunashukuru kwamba umejieleza vizuri. Labda kwa sekunde 30 chote ambacho ungependa kumwambia Mkenya kuhusu katiba.
Nafikiri katiba, it is good that we are alive to it leo. Wakenya wanauliza maswali mingi na wanasema kwamba lazima tuhakikishe kwamba katiba inafuatwa, na mahali kuna shida tubadilishe.
Asante. Bila shaka mahali pazuri pa kukamilishia kwamba sasa nguvu zote na mamlaka unazo wewe kikatiba, kama chapter 1 inavyosema. Kama mwananchi ni vyema kujua katiba na haki zako inasema vipi. Tumekuwa tukizungumzia miaka 14 ya katiba mpya ambayo iliasisiwa tarehe 27 Agosti mwaka 2010 chini ya uongozi wa hayati Rais Mwai Kibaki. Na sasa hii leo nataka utafakari kama msikilizaji na mtazamaji, je, ni yapi ambayo tumeyafikia, changamoto ziko wapi, na je ni wakati mwafaka wa katiba kufanyiwa marekebisho? Hayo ni yako kuyajibu. Tutakuwa tunafuatilia mengi tu zaidi leo Katiba Day. Shukrani sana wote ambao wamefanikisha makala ya siku ya leo kwa kwa mtazamaji, na asante sana waelekezi wangu, wapiga picha, asante sana producer wangu Bwana Geoffrey Onditi, Dennis Chisaka, vile vile nikikosa kumtaja Ben Kamuti nafikiria labda next time sitakuwa hapa, lakini wote sitawataja kwa pamoja. Asante Rashid Mwamkondo upande wa pili na wote ambao wamefanikisha. Happy Katiba Day. Tupatane siku nyingine. Mimi naitwa Dora Manya na asante sana kwa mgeni wangu Bi Mili Luanga kwa kuweza kutenga muda kufika hapa.
Asante.
Confusing you? How? I thought I was out of place. Why don't you go back to your bossy mother and ask her for your forgiveness? And pray very hard that she welcome you back, because clearly you are not meant for this class. Come on, is this a joke?
Of course it is not a joke.
You haven't even written your name, eh? Can you go and wait for me in the office?
Mr. Tisha, I have been here for so long, so if you don't mind, I have a pressing matter I need to handle.
How about I give you all a pressing issue?
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
Now, from my colleagues on Radio Taifa, we now shift gears to health matters. I mean, today being a Tuesday, we normally let you know stuff on health issues, and that is what we will be doing in a moment's time right now as we get to tackle a topic that is very, very important, that is fibroids. Did you know that statistics shows that about 20 to 80% of women get to develop fibroids by the time they get to age 50. Yes, it is one very common condition, and for that reason we have a doctor on set just to get to know what exactly fibroids are, what are the causes, what are the treatments that are available. We have Dr. Wachira Murage with us. He is an obstetrician gynecologist. Welcome to the show, Dr. Murage.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. My name is, as we have said, Dr. Wachira Murage, obstetrician and gynecologist at the Savannah Hospital. It's a pleasure to discuss this important topic that brings a lot of women to see us, and brings a lot of stress and a lot of thinking about their reproductive issues. So this is a very, very important topic, and I'm happy to discuss it this morning.
Always a pleasure to have you on board. Now let's just get straight into it, and let's begin with the definition. What exactly are fibroids, uterine fibroids to be specific?
Thank you. Uterine fibroids are growths that occur in the uterus. Sometimes you can have parasitic fibroids, which can move from the uterus to other tissues. But the basic component of the uterine fibroids is abnormal uterine tissue that grows in a kind of a circular manner and to form a mass. So you can say uterine fibroids are related to the uterine tissue. They can be within the uterus, and they can also go to other areas like in the gut or in what you call the fat of the abdomen. But basically they are restrained or constrained within the uterine tissue.
So they are growths.
So they are growths.
But they're non-cancerous?
And they are non-cancerous. The only time we associate fibroids with cancer is beyond menopause. Because uterine fibroids are dependent on hormones, i.e. the estrogens. So the woman gets to go towards menopause, and they pause, the periods pause, though they're in menopause. So there is no longer that hormone component that stimulates the growth of fibroids. So they should technically disappear or reduce to a very, very, very small size. But if you get a resistant sort of fibroid, which is painful, at that period of post-menopause, then we tend to worry, because there's a cancer called sarcoma, which are very, very aggressive cancer that sometimes can be confused with uterine fibroids. But basically, uterine fibroids are not cancer.
All right. What causes them?
The uterine fibroids is just hormonal. And when you're talking about uterine fibroids, you say that the cause is not known. And therefore, you talk about risk factors. The risk factors for uterine fibroids. Some of the the risk factors for uterine fibroids are like, number one, obesity and BMI. So there's a tendency for the ladies with high BMI beyond 25 and above, up to what we'd call morbid obesity. They tend to have uterine fibroids. Why we think there's that association or that link is because the extra fat in a woman is converted into estrogens, and those estrogens stimulate the growth of fibroids in the uterus. And why we are saying in the uterus is because there are things called receptors. In areas where there are fibroids, it has a higher concentration of those receptors of hormones. So when the hormones come into the blood and they're absorbed, that area tends to grow faster than the normal tissue of the uterine fibroids. And that fast growth is always abnormal. So that excess fat in ladies with the high BMI is converted into estrogens. And then those estrogens are then stimulate more that uterine tissue, and therefore there's causation of uterine fibroids. Of course, other factors are women who smoke also, they're related to uterine fibroids. Family history of uterine fibroids, you tend to get people running in that kind of
so
your mother, your auntie had fibroids. So we think there's a genetic linkage to the causation of uterine fibroids. But generally we say we do not know what causes uterine fibroids. Of course, they are more common in ladies who have early menarche. They start their periods early, all right? So that's now exposes them to a higher reproductive age, higher hormone output. And those ones that extend their menopause. So they'll have a longer transit time when there are hormones coming up. So the ladies also who stay for long without having their first conception, their first baby. Why are we saying so? It's because the uterus stays a bit empty, so there is that unopposed exposure to the hormones. And that, of course, now causes the growth of the uterine fibroids. So generally, those are the risk factors, because we do not know, we cannot nail down and say this is now the cause, but we find it's associated with those several factors.
All right. Maybe what are some of the symptoms? How can one know whether they have fibroids or not?
Yes, thank you so much. As I go into, so that you understand better the symptomatology of uterine fibroids, fibroids have types. And you can have fibroids that are outside the uterus. They are called pedunculated. I talked about parasitic. Somehow that the uterine tissue went to an area far from the uterus. Pedunculated is linked to the fibroid. It has a pedicle, or like a stalk. Yeah, and then you have the fibroids that are within the wall of the uterus. They're called intramural. And then you have fibroids that are protruding from the wall. They're called subserosal. And then you have other fibroids that are within the wall, the lining of the uterus where the baby stays. And those ones are called submucous. So some of the symptomatology are linked to those types of fibroids. Of course, now, like the parasitic, you'll be far away, so it can cause a side of a mass effect where it is, pressure effect. Then you have the pedunculated that can even go to a point of even causing your uterine intestinal obstruction, because the intestines can coil along. So you have seen patients who come with the intestinal obstruction, the surgeons are not understanding. Maybe the fibroid, the pedunculated fibroid, has caused that kind of coiling on that pedicle of the uterine fibroids. Then you have now the subserosal, the ones protruding, they can be very, very big. Until you find like a woman is pregnant, even carrying twins, because of their size. Because where they are on the outside wall, they tend to extend further. By and large, the submucous are the major cause of what you call the symptomatology of uterine fibroids, which is heavy menstrual flow. The lady you come on, as they come see the doctor, they say, oh, it's been very, very heavy periods. When my periods start, they're heavy, they come in clots. I have to use several pads. I cannot go to work. I have to look for medication. That one we call it menorrhagia. Then, of course, there is the pressure effect that we have discussed. If a fibroid is on the, we call it anterior, the front part of the fibroid, the bladder is just next there. So you find those women, you'll be peeing a lot, because there's the, the uterine fibroid, especially the subserosal, the one you have described, protruding out. You press on the bladder, so when you feel like peeing all the time, running. And when they go, maybe no pee comes out, maybe a few drops, and then they are done. But they'll continually feel a pressure. The same thing, if the fibroid is located on the posterior, the back side, it will press on the rectum. So the lady will be feeling like, they want to go for poo-poo most of the time. But when they go to the toilet, no poo-poo comes out. Those are, we call them pressure effects. Then, of course, there's pain. And the uterine fibroids, when they're so big, they do change. And it's called degeneration. Yeah, we can equip it to like rotting, because they're so big. So the blood, because they depend on the blood supply, is not getting into the core of the uterine fibroid. So that lack of blood there causes a lot of pain, and we call it hairline degeneration. So they also change in pregnancy as well. They also change. They become slightly bigger. They also become red, and they're also quite painful in pregnancy. They can be quite an issue in pregnancy. Those are basically the symptomatology of uterine fibroids. So most of the ladies who come because of uterine fibroids, they come because of the heavy menstrual flow or a mass. They can already feel a mass. And of course, those are other things like the pressure symptoms and the pain follow suit.
Yeah. Can one have fibroids and not know about it because they don't experience any kind of symptoms? Can they be like asymptomatic?
Yes, they can be asymptomatic. In fact, most of the fibroids are asymptomatic, especially if they are pedunculated, they are subserosal, intramural. So you find if they do not pain, they do not cause pressure pain, those kind of fibroids do not cause bleeding. Okay, so, ladies, you stay for years, they are not feeling anything. but at one point maybe they have some pain or something, or they happen to do an ultrasound for some other reason. So the fibroids come in as some incidental findings. So there are many women with asymptomatic uterine fibroids. And for us as gynecologists, we are not bothered with asymptomatic fibroids. And you are normally reassured. We only come in quite aggressively if the fibroids are symptomatic according to the symptoms that you have alluded to.
Yeah. And now that there are those that are asymptomatic, as you've just explained, what effect do fibroids have on the general woman's reproductive health? Like generally, what effects do they have on a woman's reproductive health?
Fibroids, we do not really blame them on general, the general reproductive aspect of the woman, but they can also be quite an issue, especially in infertility. They can actually cause infertility. And how do they do that? The fibroids that are within the lining of the uterus can affect implantation. Okay, because it's an abnormal surface that's there. So, and remember how conception occurs. There's depositing of the sperms at the vagina next to the cervix. Then the sperms will swim and they go to the tubes. The egg is picked from the ovary through the outer part of the tube, and therefore fertilization occurs within the wall. And then the fertilized ovum has to come into the cavity to look over an area where they can implant. So if they implant on the fibroid, generally they are going to get recurrent pregnancy losses, what you call recurrent abortions. So is that they reduce the space that is supposed to be occupied by the fertilized egg. The other way that they can affect generally the reproductive system is by compressing the tubes. Yes, like the pedunculated, like the subserous. Those ones can press on the tube, and therefore they cause kind of a blockage to the tube. Of course, remember, if they become symptomatic, the bleeding, the anemia, remember the fibroids, if they need surgery, surgery to the uterus causes trauma to the uterus. So sometimes you can cause adhesions, and adhesions you kind of block the fallopian tubes. That's the way generally that the fibroids affect reproductive.
So it does not affect fertility. It just affects the woman's ability to carry the baby to term.
If you look at the causes of infertility in a woman, fibroids will not be number one. You talk about things like pelvic inflammatory disease, ovulation issues, hormonal issues, then you can talk of uterine abnormalities. When you're just talking about uterine abnormalities, that's when now you talk about the uterine fibroids. They contribute to the infertility by the issue of poor conception, space limitation in the uterus, and of course the blocking of the tubes to cause what we call tubal blockage, which is number one. But remember, tubal blockage, the number one cause is the infections, the pelvic inflammatory disease. But fibroids play a part in infertility. So when you're looking at infertility, when you're assessing a lady for causes of infertility, fibroids will not come number one. There'll be infections, tubal factor, male factor, hormones, then you come down to the uterine anomalies. When you're now discussing about the uterine anomalies, that's where the fibroids come in. So you can see they're not really a major cause of infertility. And that's why we advise the ladies that do not run to remove the fibroids because you're not getting a baby. Look at the other common factors and see which one could be contributing. In fact, we do even advise the ladies that before you go for surgery and you're looking for a baby, get a baby first. Get a baby first. Why? When you're discussing the complications of surgery, and you're going to see when you come to the complications of surgery in uterine fibroids, you'll find that you can get endometrial adhesions. Adhesions are things like cobwebs that affect this nice flow of the tubes. So the tubes kind of coil, and when they coil, then that is they cause impediment of the transport of the ovum to meet the sperms. So we do tell them, guys, don't first go for surgery. Try and have a baby Then when you have babies, then you can go and have this
sorry
surgery.
to interject, but what if the fibroids are inside the uterus? Would that cause a problem if they're big, maybe they're big fibroids? Would that interfere with the pregnancy?
If the fibroids are submucous, it will depend on the size of the fibroids. So you look at the size. In fact, as you are going to see when you're looking at the investigations that you do an MRI and assess how deep are they into the cavity. Okay? Because if they are less than 1/3 into the cavity, then you do not have to bother, because then they leave enough space. But if they are large and they are occupying most of the uterine cavity, then that is likely to affect implantation. And then, of course, remember, if they are big and they're in the cavity, the lady is already bleeding. It's already bleeding, and therefore you have to go in for surgery, which is normally a very, very, intricate surgery, because if you interfere with the cavity, then you cause what is called uterine synarchy. The cavity causes adhesions, and then the cavity can actually close down, and then you have another issue. There will be pain during periods. There will be no periods at all when you have that, and of course, the cavity is closed up, and therefore there can never be any implantation. So that's why we say, let us assess, let us give time for the lady before we think of surgery.
Okay. So, what does the size of the fibroid maybe say? Is it possible for them to just be small ones and not grow over time, or it's dependent on time as well, or what causes the enlargement of the fibroids?
As long as the woman is in the reproductive age group, 15 to 49, the natural history of the fibroids is that they tend to be bigger with the time. They tend to be bigger. But what determines is from person to person, looking at the risk factors, the obesity, the lifestyle, how old, the age, because the age is very important. Because if you're more than 35 and you have never carried a baby, the uterus has been free for unexposed or uninterrupted, exposure to the hormones. So they tend to have uterine fibroids. So it depends from person to person. There are ladies, they are 45, no children. They started their periods at 12 years, and now they are 45. They're still continuing. They have very, very tiny fibroids. You can get a young girl of 20 years, 18 years, she has huge fibroids that are causing bleeding and pain, and therefore they have to be operated. So it's normally individualized. It's from person to person. So you can't say there are any other extra factors apart from the association and the risk factors, the age, and the genetic composition of the ladies.
Can they just disappear?
At menopause.
Okay, before menopause, is it possible for them to just disappear?
They can't disappear. As long as they're in the reproductive age group, 15 to 49, they always grow bigger. It is the rate of growth that varies from woman to woman. Some will be very fast. In fact, we see scenarios of where we operate a lady, and within another 2 years, 1 to 2 years, they are back.
I actually had a question on the recurring of the fibroids. Because for most people, after even the surgeries, they still get them, like they keep recurring. Is it that the moment you get fibroids, then it means you will forever just have them until maybe menopause, as you've said? Is that the case?
It varies. It varies from person to person.
What causes the recurrence?
It's just the hormones. Just the hormones. And of course, when you're doing the surgeries, remember you don't do any scans intraoperatively when you're in theater. It all depends on the feel. It's not, of course, the bigger fibroids, you go to the next. As long as you can palpate, you can feel the fibroids, then you can go for them. So even at surgery, it is not possible for a surgeon to say they have done 100% removal of uterine fibroids. They will leave smaller ones. But remember, those small ones you keep growing. So you can say the issue of recurrence depends on person to person. It also depends on the quality of surgery at the time, and many other unknown factors that cause the recurrence. But generally, there are ladies who get fibroids until finally, even before they get children, they can't bear it anymore. They have had, 2-3 surgeries, and it's very complicated. There are adhesions, and you find some ladies actually losing their uterus even before they get children.
Yeah, that's the myectomy.
Yes, the myomectomy.
Myomectomy, yeah. Before we get into the treatment options, maybe are there lifestyle changes that one can make and that would enable them to be able to shrink the fibroids or dissolve them maybe?
Yeah, that's a good question. But there are really no known, 100% lifestyle changes. But of course, we say, look at your lifestyle. If you are smoking, try see how you can stop because it affects. Issues of exercise, all right? Because you want to get your BMI to the range of 18 to 25, okay? Because the extra fat, you'll definitely affect you. So the diet. A good diet is very, very important. Of course, and then, of course, as they say, okay, the wellness, being happy, avoiding stress, because of those generally now, the bad hormones coming to our bodies, they affect our metabolism, and therefore, there's more fat deposition, and therefore extra hormones. So those are the things I would say would help to reduce, but definitely there's no 100%. I cannot fail to mention some ladies who have come and they have said they have used alternative treatments. These products that people are using these days, we call them alternative treatment to the conventional treatment.
Yeah.
And they have mentioned a few products and they have said, oh, when Daktari, you remember last time I was bleeding, I had these fibroids and I've used this particular product. And now, Daktari, I'm not bleeding.
Products that are not medicinal?
They are not medicinal, but they are in the space of the natural products that are being marketed there.
Can we call them that?
And those are the alternative treatments that people are using these days, the supplements and all those. Maybe there will be a need for the doctors to work with those people and see whether those particular products actually work. But you have had a few women who have come to tell us, yes, this happened. Yeah.
Oh, and you examine and find
and you
realize that for real it's
yes.
Oh,
yes,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Some say that eating citrus fruits would help shrink them. Eating apples, taking the intake of milk, and so on. That falls in the space of the balanced diet. Yes, the balanced diet is composed, of course, of the fruits, the vegetables, and the proteins, and a bit of less carbohydrates. But that's why I said we probably would need to look at those products. When you talk about the conventional space, the doctors, you find research has not supported the eating of those. But again, balanced diet helps us, to keep our BMI in check, help us to keep healthy, helps us to distribute the fat, the digestion of food, and therefore reducing fat deposition. So that's the way we can explain those people who claim that such fruits and other things have helped them sort out the fibroids. All right, I want us to get into the treatment options available. What are some of the treatment options available? And I want us to start with the non-invasive ones that you don't need surgery.
Okay, thank you so much. As we get into the treatment, how we get into the treatment is that we diagnose. We actually now think of what's all this from the history that we have described. Then we do things like ultrasound. Very, very important. A very good ultrasound really is the main diagnostic tool. Okay? And before you go to the ultrasound, of course, as doctors, we examine. So we examine and be able to feel that mass that is in the uterus. We do what is called bimanual, examining from the private area and examining from top, then you can feel. Then you can do ultrasounds, you can do MRIs, some x-rays you can do as well, and then they can help you. When you're discussing uterine fibroids treatment, we normally want to start with, as you have said, non-invasive. You can actually do conservative treatment of uterine fibroids. Conservative means you're just following the lady, maybe some painkillers, maybe you can give some blood builders. Okay, so it's called conservative. And as long as they're not aggressive, you can conservatively manage the uterine fibroids. Then you can come to medical. And medical, there are some drugs that we can give, both oral to swallow and then injections. And then important about the medical is to discuss the side effects, because they normally give the ladies menopause-like symptoms. They'll start sweating, they'll start, having hot flashes, they can have, skin and vaginal dryness. So it's important to mention those side effects, because they can take a toll on the lady as they are taking the medications. The only thing we also discuss about medications is that it is not curative. It is just buying time, because what do? They shrink the fibroids. Once you stop the medications, the fibroids blow back and then continue growing. So you're saying the medical is when you're thinking maybe the lady is anemic, you need to boost the HB. So you can use the medical to reduce the size of the fibroids. Okay, as you're building the HB, then you can go to a more durable kind of an option of treatment. So that's what we like discussing. All a lady is around 48, 49 years. You can use the medication as you wait for the lady to go into menopause, and therefore the fibroids will shrink naturally. Then you can have X-ray, radiological, so where you use X-rays. And then after that, then you go to now the surgical management. And in surgical these days, you have the minimally invasive.
Okay, I'll cut you short. Let's take a break, and then when you come back, we get into more of the treatment options for uterine fibroids.
You're confusing us. Confusing you? How? I thought I was out of place. Why don't you go back to your bossy mother and ask her for your forgiveness? And pray very hard that she welcome you back, because clearly you are not meant for this class.
Come on, is this a joke?
Of course it is not a joke.
You haven't even written your name, eh? Can you go and wait for me in the office?
Mr. Tisha, I have been here for so long, so if you don't mind, I have a pressing matter I need to handle.
How about I give you all a pressing issue?
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who is the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevaa kichwani.
Zile wakati tulikuwa tunaapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get info. Mornings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is Health Check right here on Good Morning Kenya with me, Vivian Degwa, and I am joined by Dr. Wachira Murage, who is an obstetrician gynecologist, and we are discussing uterine fibroids. Now, before we took that break, we were just talking about the treatment options, and you had mentioned about the non-invasive ones, whereby you take some tablets maybe, and you've mentioned that these tablets may have some really tough, let me use the word tough, some really tough side effects, you know, menopause-like side effects for the lady. So my question was, if the fibroids are asymptomatic, as you had mentioned before, aside from them just growing, maybe it's just the mass that one can see and tell that truly I have fibroids, but they don't excessively bleed, they're not in any pain, would you still advise them to take medication, or it's just fine, you can just stay without it?
If the fibroids are asymptomatic, means they do not have the symptoms. So normally we'll advise the lady to just go conservative.
Okay.
But there's one element the ladies don't like, and that is now the cosmetic bit of it. The fibroids can look really big. Until you see the lady is slim, they have done their exercises, but they have a pot. And to an extent, sometimes they are congratulated that, oh, you can see there's something coming on board soon, so when is the day? Of course, that now embarrassment and of course that stigmatization and all causes the ladies to come, and that is an important symptomatology. The size of the uterine fibroids, so we can remove them. But as long as the fibroids are not an issue, they are not disturbing, then we do not have to do any surgery. Because remember, or any treatment, because any treatment has complications. For example, when you're talking about the medications, the swallowing. Remember that they're swallowing every day. They're swallowing a tablet every day, every day. And of course the side effects we have talked about. And you're saying you're swallowing for about 3 months, because treatment for fibroids is normally between 3 and 6 months. That's when you get, good effect. So you can imagine the sweating, it's a young person, the hot flashes, the vaginal dryness. Sometimes libido is also reduced. Okay, sometimes you may have wrinkling of the skin. Sometimes you have some bone pains. Sort of like menopause. That's what happens. If it's the other formulation, which is the injection, they have to come every month for an injection. At least the tablets are better because you can stop at a point. But the injection, and it has to expire, because it's every month, every 30 days.
For 6 months,
for 6 months,
3 to 6
or
months.
3 to 6 months, yes, they come for the injections. They have some similar side effects. Okay, normally there are some anti-medication that we can help, sort of call them sort of hormone replacement treatment to try and counter those side effects. So for the ladies with such feelings, there are some medications that we can give. There are 2 types normally. A sort of natural soya-based medications, and also you can have hormonal-based medication. And now there are some that have come into the market, the hormonal-based, and they can quite do very well to counter those side effects of that. When you're talking about surgery,
when is it recommended?
The surgery. So surgery is normally now recommended when now bleeding is the commonest indication for surgery. When you have lots and lots of bleeding until the lady is anemic. Because anemia, low blood, is a major cause. Is majorly caused by the uterine fibroids because of the heavy bleeding. So that time the surgery is indicated. If the fibroids are huge, okay, and they can be seen, and the lady is feeling uncomfortable, then you have to operate. If the fibroids are causing a lot of pain, for example, so that lady at the time of periods, time of maybe even ovulation, they cannot go to work. The pain is so much, what we call dysmenorrhea, if it's coming during periods. Another time is just chronic pelvic pain. The lady is never at peace because of pain. Then you have to operate. If they're causing so much pressure, because sometimes they even press on the spinal cord, So the lady is always complaining of low back pain all the time, or they're complaining of constipation. Right? Every time there's that pressure, feeling of going to the loo. But because of the compression on the intestines, then there's a transit time for the stool to come down is delayed. So most of the water is taken by the body. By the time the stool is coming down to the rectum, it's a hard crust that causes constipation. And of course, you know the signs of constipation. They form hemorrhoids, piles, be very, very uncomfortable. You feel bloated all the time. Yeah, then you have to operate the fibroids. If they press on the bladder, yeah, so the bladder constantly cannot relieve the complete, there's no complete emptying of the urine from the bladder. So what happens? There is now more infections, more urinary tract infections. And more urinary tract infections, the lower aspect of the bladder can be managed, but the worst that can even cause an admission, can even affect the kidneys, is now the infection on the kidneys. We call it pyelonephritis. Okay? Sometimes they have caused even renal failure because the kidneys are not functioning properly because there is obstruction to the ureters and there is backflow of urine to the kidneys. And that can actually affect the functioning of the kidney because of the obstruction. We call it hydronephrosis and recurrent pyelonephritis. They can actually affect the kidney. So in that such circumstances, you have to remove the fibroids. Again, if you do think the fibroids, according to the assessment, according to the HSG, to see whether there's obstruction to the tubes, then you see, of course, the lady is not getting a baby despite trying for about an year. You have ruled all other causes and you think it's the fibroids. Then you go for the fibroids and remove them.
All right. Or when we talk about the surgeries, there are different surgeries for fibroids. If you can kindly just get to mention each one of them.
Okay. Widely or broadly, there are two.
Okay.
Okay. You can say the non-invasive and invasive surgery. When you're talking about the invasive, you're saying it's laparotomy. You're opening, okay? When you now get into the uterus, then you can decide, and depending on what you have discussed, because when you're treating uterine fibroids, there's something called a consent, and this is very, very important. And I would advise the ladies to get full information from their doctors. As, do you really need this surgery? Okay. What are the complications of this surgery? Okay. What will be your mode of delivery going forward when you have the surgery? Okay. Where are you? Do you need to remove the fibroids only, or do you need to remove
the entire uterus?
The entire uterus. So that discussion needs to be held even before, and the lady given time to go discuss with the family, digest the whole issue, because surgery is traumatic. Yeah, so you need to understand. Once now that informed consent has been received, that's when now you go into now the surgeries, the invasive and non-invasive. We were talking about the invasive. Invasive generally means it's open. Yeah, so that you go in, then you can remove the fibroids. And when you go in, we normally say remove as much fibroids as possible. One of the key preparations as you go into, especially the removing of the fibroids, is blood transfusion. Again, that has to be discussed. Yeah, because in the preparation for the surgery, you have optimized the hemoglobin. It's high. It's more than 10. You want it to be 12, 13, or more, but sometimes you can lose. Generally, removing the fibroids has a lot of blood loss. Okay? There's a lot of blood loss. And therefore, you might need to transfuse. So that discussion needs to be held so that the lady understands there can be transfusion. And you know the meds about transfusion. Yeah? Then, of course, if it's a lady that's going to undergo hysterectomy, they need to understand. You're going for the hysterectomy, the uterus is a very emotive organ in a woman's life, okay? And therefore they need to understand how does it affect sexuality going forward. It will be their pain. Do they understand that they will not have periods when the uterus is removed? That is at hysterectomy. But generally hysterectomy is for the ladies who are done with their child size, they are more than 35 years, they're happy, the fibroids are really disturbing, they're bleeding, they are a lot, you know. Yeah, and kind of now that can be an option.
Yeah.
Then of course you have the what you call the MIS, the minimally invasive surgery, where you just use some, we call them ports. We can call it hose for the sake of understanding.
Yeah.
We call them ports, but hose normally about 3, or they can be more. So you put in the cameras and you're able to see the fibroids. But for the minimally invasive surgery, the doctor has to assess. Yeah, because it's not all fibroids that are amenable for treatment with MIS. Okay, and in MIS you can actually do a lot. You can do the myomectomy to remove the fibroids. You can also do the hysterectomy. Yeah, during that time. So, but that's the way it's done. It's a good way, and as a lady, you should ask for that option. Whether you are fibroids, whether the state of your uterus allows for minimally invasive surgery. The beauty with the minimally invasive surgery is that it is cosmetic, because you're using ports. It's not a big
It's not
scar.
a cut.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then the healing process is faster. In fact, you can do a hysteroscope and a laparoscopic, removal of fibroids, and you go home the same day. Whereas you cannot do that with open. Then, of course, the outcomes are normally better. The complications are less when you do the MIS. Then, of course, you can also do hysteroscopic. Hysteroscopic is how you're approaching from the vagina up to the uterus and where the fibroids are, and you can actually remove the fibroids hysteroscopically. Yeah, so those are the minimally invasive operations that you can do for uterine fibroids.
Yeah, I want us to touch on the complications, but before we get into that, very quickly, the cost of all this.
Yes.
Is it very expensive? And if you want to go for the laparoscopy, the one that is minimal invasion, or you don't get the cut, is it more expensive than the cut?
Very, very. It's a bit expensive, I must say, which is unfortunate, because it's only available in the leading private hospitals. Of course, in our national referral hospital, we have the laparoscopy where patients can use NHIF and other insurances. Because by and large, in the bigger hospitals, it can even cost something like 500,000 Kenya shillings, sometimes even up to 600. Especially for the myomectomy. So let me say it's about anything 4 to even 600,000. So you can imagine quite expensive
for the common person. Because expensive is relative.
Yes. Yeah. So for NHIF, yes, the National Referral Hospital has it, and other hospitals like our hospital in Savannah we have. And tried to to help in the costings. Yeah, but generally because of the machine that you use, and the other thing is, you use gases, and then of course the issue about the minimally invasive, it takes time, an average of 3 hours plus. Whereas the open, you probably take 1.5 hours to a max 3 hours. But the minimally invasive 3-4 hours, sometimes even some people have taken 5 hours. So that's why the cost is normally a little bit high. Yeah.
But it's covered by NHIF.
By NHIF in the National Referral Hospital, it is covered. If they have to top up because of a few excesses that are unexpected, then they top up something little, 20,000, 15, 30,000. But majority will be covered by NHIF. Other insurances also, they do cover. Yes.
All right. If you can, we are running out of time, but if you can just mention maybe the complications very quickly in the slightest of words.
I
don't know how that is possible.
The complications, you can have short-term complications, you can have long-term complications. Short-term is, of course, things like bleeding, injuring other organs. It has happened. Injuring the bladder, injuring the intestines, both open and the minimally invasive surgery. The immediate short-term, things like infections can come. Sometimes those particular wounds can also give way. They can give way, and therefore you have to go back to theater. Long-term are things like intestinal obstructions. They cause adhesions. Sometimes even infertility because of tubal obstructions. Yes, and then of course now the long term, with the lady that has been done myomectomy, the likely chances that she'll have a cesarean section. It changes the obstetric practice on that particular lady when it comes to the future. like a cesarean section is normally the more common mode of delivery.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We really appreciate your presence, Dr. Murage. Thank you for just shedding light on uterine fibroids.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. This is where we put a cap to Good Morning Kenya this morning. I am sure that you have gotten to learn much about uterine fibroids, and for someone who's suffering from that condition, you've heard that it is treatable, so don't stress too much about it. Now, right now, I end this show, but remember, we are having the official unveiling of the candidature for the AAU chairmanship by Raila Odinga, and that will be happening, and as KBC will be covering that for you in no time now, because it is expected to start at around maybe 10 a.m. So keep it KBC for that and much more. My name is Vivian Degwa. Until tomorrow, God willing, goodbye.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you